Also, a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
So you see, son, good manners are very, very important. Someday, many years from now, when you're a grown-up, you'll be a man. And when you are, you should be a gentleman. Do you want me to go through it one more time?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and excuse me. Sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If a door's shut, then knock first. Don't burp, don't swear, don't speak with your mouth full, don't reach across people's plates, keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. While we're at it, don't stare, don't use foul language, don't call people names, but do remember people's names. Always share your toys, play nice, and cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give up your seat to anyone who has trouble standing bottom line. Treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Hey, there he is. How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand or what?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you okay?
I'm having a stroke.
Your face looks weird too.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you having a seizure or something?
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
or if that resume was from someone who
worked 12-hour shifts at the recycling company with my dad, who's 72. That taught me a work ethic that I carry with me every day.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have gotten in the way of my goals, but I learned to push through, and that's what I bring to work every day.
So maybe it's time we look beyond the resume and look to Grads of Life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Ranger station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well, we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time, it's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. It's hard to me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
A lot to get into for a new show of the sports loudmouth. Speedy, it's very swampy outside. It's not cold. I can't wait until the winter comes, but a lot to get into as the Celtics are the new NBA champions. Boo-hoo. And a lot more, so keep listening. The Sports Loudmouth live here and in color tonight. Tune in. Doc Rivers is going to have Damian Lillard run very fast out of town. Does he help them win? You're under 500. Aaron Judge helps the Yankees win. You're paying the player $300 million. You better be sure that guy's going to help you get over the hump. For some reason, this guy is completely lost on calling plays. Maybe he's a therapist. Did you see Lamar Jackson cry to the ref? No, he didn't. Hello. For a new show of the Sports Loudmouth, I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, the Speedster, Speedy Petey, and yes, our executive producer, Mr. Aaron Fishman, and our Sports Minute, yes, Mr. Scoops. But remember, you can call our number every single show. 631-672-3108 is the number. And ladies and gentlemen, go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out all our local listings for all our shows, go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Speeder, How is the swampiness outside?
Well, yeah, it's swampy, all right. It's definitely a lot of humidity.
Swamp ass, Speedy.
Yeah.
Swamp ass.
Yeah, it seems that
I have
way.
a lot of it.
Yes, but some shout outs for me. Two of my family members have birthdays today. Happy birthday to my uncle on my mom's side of the family, and one of my cousins as well, turning 21 as well today. So happy birthday to both of them, and a shout out to all the fathers this Father's Day weekend. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you. Are you a father,
Spank
Speedy? Are you a father?
Am I a father?
Are you a father, Speedy? No. Well, you have a dog, right? Are you his father?
I guess that's one way to put it. Fine.
So you are a father. Happy Father's Day, Speedy.
Okay. Happy Father's Day to all the dog and cat fathers out there. So
Well,
that includes you, Snug.
Just stay away from licking ass, okay, Speedy? You do like that, right?
No, I know.
Okay, I'm just saying your dog likes to enjoy that, right?
No.
I do have a happy birthday. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Vashant, your brother, Scoops. Happy birthday to him. He is now 32 years old, Speedy. That means I'm 10 years older than him, Speedy. 10 years.
So that means he's a baby.
He's a baby and I'm an old man. You can call me Geezer Boy, okay? Tonight, you can call me Geezer. I'm only going to give you one night to call me Geezer. How's that sound, Speedy?
I don't care.
Well, I do. I definitely do. Are you going to call me Geezer? Give it to me. Give me the Geezer.
I don't have a geezer.
I just
Good
told
for
you. Well, good for you is good for me, right?
Well, Kyrie Irving's a geezer.
No,
Maybe we'll
it's
go
good
with
for
that.
both. It is good for both of us. Anyways, we have a great show lined up for you guys. A little bit later in the show at 8:30, we'll be talking to Sportsline NFL draft analyst, our friend Steven Vanover. Or Bendover, right, Speedy? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Well, he's got a new phone, so maybe you can give him a shout out.
I'm not bending him over.
I'm just giving you. I'm just playing some fun. Anyways, having some fun with you. 9 o'clock, we'll be talking to former Super Bowl champion, guard and current Middle Tennessee State offensive lineman Kendall Simmons. He played, obviously, for the Steelers from 2002 to 2008 and the Bills and the Patriots in 2009. So, Kendall, this is the first time Kendall's been on a show. We're very excited to have him on. He will have a lot of fun on a show. I don't think he's ever been on a show like this, so it's going to be fun. Remember, guys, you can call us 631-672-3108. The Celtics knock off the Mavericks, and boy, oh boy, did they knock them off. 4-1 in the NBA Finals, and Kyrie Irving calls Boston and the Celtics fans a cult. Interesting. I mean, every team is a cult. Am I not right about that? Every team has a cult ship. I mean, there's fans that just absolutely follow him all the time. Brandon Aiyuk says that the 49ers don't want him there. So it seems like Brandon Aiyuk has 1 foot out. T. Higgins signs his franchise tag for 1 year, $21.8 million. That's a pretty interesting story. I mean, T. Higgins is on his way out too. The NFL is being sued for violating the antitrust laws with their TV subscriptions and NFL Sunday Ticket. Oh, the NFL. Don't we love them? Roger Goodell, you're the best.
Oh, yeah.
$55 million a year to Roger, a.k.a. the man Goodell. Gerrit Cole will make his season debut tomorrow against the one, the only, the Orioles. So why not the second best team in the American League? That's going to be fun. MLB says AAA players will be allowed to challenge balls and strikes starting next week. What?
Welcome to the world of robot umpires. I guess that's how it started.
What is going on here? Is that going to happen in the MLB soon?
They're testing it in the minors for this year. They're going to be able to challenge balls and strikes because there's been some egregiously bad ones this year.
Do you challenge balls, Speedy?
I'm not a baseball player.
But do you challenge them?
If I see that the call looks off, I would, but I'm not a baseball player.
So if
I don't
it
know
was
how
a
I would
little
be able to
outside, would you challenge the balls?
I don't have the autonomy to, but
well, you can.
I would probably advocate for it.
Well, you look at it and you say, "Hey, listen, those are pretty big balls."
There's one ball.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
one ball is being thrown.
You could spit out a ball, right?
No, that's illegal.
I have zero interest in putting balls into a knot.
There you go. So why don't we get into it? The Celtics beat the Mavericks 4-1 in the NBA Finals to win their 18th championship in franchise history, most in NBA history. So That's interesting. Jaylen Brown was the finals MVP, averaging 20.8 points per game in the finals with 5.4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 point steals per game. Brown also had an Instagram post taking shots at 89% of the people betting against the Celtics for the Mavericks. So thank you to Jaylen Brown for throwing all the bettors, including yours truly, under the bus. Al Horford won his first NBA championship after 17 NBA seasons and 186 playoff games. Joe Mazzulla was the youngest coach to win a championship since Bill Russell in 1969. The Celtics lost only 3 games the entire postseason and only 1 game on the road. Okay. There's a lot to get into, and congratulations to the great Boston Celtics, because they're great. Everybody wants to kiss their rear ends. By all means, get on your knees and kiss them. But I'm not. I am not going to get on my hands and knees and kiss the Boston Celtics rings. I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to kiss their rings. And there's a lot. So bear with me on these takes, because I'm sure you guys are going to probably, if you're a Celtic fan, throw up. 1, who did they beat in the first round? Oh, I'm sorry. They beat a Heat team that had a jive-less, and I say less, Jimmy Buckets on the team. There's nobody that was on that team. And I don't want to hear about Bam Adebayo or Hero. That team sucks. So who did they beat in the first round? No one. Then they went into the second round, and they did play a very good Cavalier team. They're really good. A really good young team. But guess what? Donovan Mitchell missed 2 games. Jared Allen missed 3 games. Karis LeVert missed practically the whole series. 3 very important players to that Cavaliers team were not really playing in the series. So to me, they really just moved right into the Eastern Conference Finals. And everybody thought it was going to be against the New York Knicks, but the New York Knicks couldn't stay healthy. And don't we love the New York Knicks and all the New York Knicks players at the finals, hanging out in the broadcasting booths, as we seen Julius Randle last night speaking and doing his analyst thoughts on the basketball game. We've seen Josh Hart. We've seen all these guys. I mean, every single one of them. Hartenstein was working for an organization, doing some podcast work and radio work while the playoffs and the finals are going on after the Knicks get eliminated. Congratulations to Julius Randle, who, by the way, didn't step on a court all playoff long, but has the sense of going and speaking on ESPN. So congratulations to Julius Randle. Okay. Then they go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they play an Indiana Pacer team that's one of the youngest in all of basketball, a young team, and very well coached. There's no question, very well coached. But who did they beat? Their best player, Halliburton, was out practically for the whole series. So they didn't even beat anybody in the finals. So you go into the NBA Finals against a Dallas Maverick team that had a very good run. They beat a lot of good teams to get where they are. Sensational. Luka Doncic was unstoppable. They beat the Timberwolves. Fantastic. The Timberwolves surprised the world. They knock off the Denver Nuggets. Great. It's sensational. But did anybody think that the Dallas Mavericks were as good as they looked against the Timberwolves? I picked, I'm gonna come out and say it. I picked Dallas to win the finals. Why? Because I thought they were riding high. That's what I thought. Obviously, I was wrong. We all knew that on paper, the Celtics were a better team. Jaylen Brown, who doesn't show up in the playoffs, which he did in the finals. Jason Tatum, who usually doesn't show up in the playoffs, but showed up in some parts of the finals. Porzingis, who everybody keeps giving Porzingis all the credit. How many games did he play in the finals? He's going to get a ring. I'm surprised he hasn't asked the Celtics if he can own a piece of their team. Who did the Celtics beat? They beat nobody. This was the easiest run to an NBA championship I've ever seen a team have. They beat nobody. I'm speaking the truth. Who did they go through in the Eastern Conference that you can brag about. And I'm not going to blame the Celtics. It's not the Celtics' fault. It's whoever falls. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The 76ers did not have a really good season. Why? Because their best player was Joel Embiid was out practically the whole season. He wasn't healthy. Maybe the 76ers are a fourth or maybe a third seed. And maybe the 76ers are playing in the finals against the Celtics, the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe they knock off the Celtics. The Celtics, and you have to give them credit. You play whoever you're challenged and whoever you're playing against, whoever's on the roster, you're going to play. But here's the problem. When you sit back and you listen to Jaylen Brown, and I'm going to give Jaylen Brown a lot of credit, well-deserved NBA MVP of the playoffs. He was fantastic. He really was. In the finals, he defended very well. He defended multiple positions. He was defending the guard position, the shooting guard position, the three. He was defending multiple positions and doing it so well. And I'm surprised Jrue Holiday didn't get a lot of those votings because I thought he was fantastic. The way he defended against Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving was one of the hottest players in the playoffs. He was sensational. Kyrie Irving was sensational all playoff long until he went to the finals. Then he ran right into Jrue Holiday and White. Okay? Two amazing defensive players. They are. And the Celtics, team-wise, their strength is their defense. It's no question. When you watch them play against the Dallas Mavericks and how they shut down, and I say when you look at the numbers, they didn't completely shut down Luka Doncic. They didn't completely shut down Kyrie Irving. But what they did is, if you look at the game and you look at where they made most of their points, it was later in the fourth quarter when the Celtics were up by 15, 16 points, when nobody cared to defend them. That's the truth. The Celtics completely outplayed the Mavericks. And I know Jaylen Brown's upset. I know there's a lot of Celtic fans upset because everybody in the world thought that the Mavericks were going to surprise everybody and win the NBA championship, including yours truly. Why? Because I thought it was Luka's year. I did. Luka should have been the MVP. I've said this many, many times. He was robbed for that MVP, and I'm not going to take it away from Nikola Jokic. He was fantastic. He always is. But Luka, this was the best year I've seen Luka have, not only as a player of his own, like you single him out as a player, but team-wise, he's sensational. He led his team all the way to the finals. He did. But to me, when you look at where this Celtics team was and where they are right now, they could be great next year too. I mean, their roster and their strength is there. I mean, you just signed Jrue Holiday for 4 years. Obviously, he's 31 years old next year, but he's a sensational defensive player. You're not going to lose really anything from Jrue Holiday. You have White. He's still there. He's going to be, I think he's there for at least another year. You have, now Al Horford could retire. This is what Al Horford wanted to do. He wanted to win a championship. Now he can ride off into the sunset. We've seen Peyton Manning do it. We've seen other players do it. So more than likely, Al Horford is going to retire. Jaylen Brown just signed a long-term deal, $400 million. You expect Jason Tatum to get a big contract. I mean, this team is going to be stacked for next year. But is the Eastern Conference going to be a free ride all the way to the finals like it was this year? The answer is no.
You wonder, too, like I think the two teams that they could have given him a much bigger fight were the Knicks and the Nuggets, like in theory, if the Knicks are healthy, because the Knicks have that perimeter defender depth, and Denver, when they're on, has good wing depth as well. And the Celtics have really built that model into the game, where in the three-point shooting era, building up the perimeter defense, the bigger wingers, the bigger twos have been making that kind of thing work. And they have 5 different guys they can really use to defend those perimeter. And that made it very hard for a team like Dallas that has to rely a lot on these three-point shooting to make that work. Now, their big men did do well at certain points in the playoffs. I'm not saying that PJ Washington and Gafford don't deserve a lot of credit, but they both struggled in this series, and the Celtics were able to expose them defensively inside and turn them into what they're not. You're right. Luka Doncic had a great series too. Like his inefficiency hurt at certain points, but again, he's trying to do everything because the Dallas bench was just non-existent for the most part. And the Celtics bench, they traded for Xavier Tillman at the deadline. They traded for Sam Hauser last year. They built up really good depth since Brad Stevens has taken over as an executive. And I give him a lot of credit. He stepped down as a coach and still makes the system work. And you're right. They're going to be good for a very long time.
It also, the Celtics made the Dallas Mavericks one-dimensional.
Right.
That's what they did. That was their strength in this series, was making the Dallas Mavericks play that one-dimensional game where they were forcing up shots in positions that they weren't comfortable in. And you saw as the game progressively moved forward, Dallas's defense was suspect, and the Celtics defense got better and better and better in the later quarters. They did. In the third quarter, they absolutely shut down the Dallas Mavericks. And then when the game was out of sight and out of hand, going into the fourth quarter, Dallas started hitting shots, but the game was over by then. It really was. It was just completely dominated by the Boston Celtics. You have to give a guy like Joe Mazzulla a lot of credit, because I didn't think Joe Mazzulla was the best coach in this series. I didn't think Joe Mazzulla was the best coach in the last series. But what I saw with Joe Mazzulla, especially in this series, is when his team was in trouble, he called the timeout at the right time, made sure that he had his team got him intact, understanding the position that they were in and the position that they could be in, winning an NBA championship. So I have to give Joe Mazzulla a lot of credit, because honestly, I did not think Joe was the better coach in any of the series, really any of the series besides the Cavaliers series. Every series, Rick Carlisle's a better coach. Agreed. He is. If you look in the Miami series, who do you think is the better coach? Right. All right. And even in this series against Jason Kidd, I thought Jason Kidd, very well respected, one of the best basketball minds I've ever seen, especially on a basketball court. I thought Jason Kidd was the better coach, but he outcoached Jason Kidd. He outcoached Rick Carlisle. And that says a lot about Joe Mazzulla. Maybe he is the right guy for the job, but he wins his first championship. He's the youngest coach besides Bill Russell to win. I think he was a player's coach.
Yes, he was.
So I think he's the first player's coach to win an NBA championship.
I think he's the only one.
Yeah. So, but to me, Joe Mazzulla is the first coach, regular coach, and youngest coach to win an NBA title. So congratulations to Joe Mazzulla. But Jaylen Brown coming out and attacking all the betting or the bettors out there. Who cares? Who cares who bet against you? If anything, it helps your board. When Joe Mazzulla is putting out 89% of the people picked us to lose against the Mavericks, if anything, that helps you. It pushes you. It makes you want to play better. So, if anything, that's good news for the Boston Celtics.
And he's able to take that as a bulletin board material type thing and use it as people are going to have a grudge against them. And we saw the same thing in the NFL when the Colts made the playoffs with Andrew Luck and Frank Reich's first year. They were number 32 in the power rankings. They used that as motivation all year, and they made it to the second round of the playoffs. So that kind of thing could just be bulletin board material for anyone to use. And then Jason Tatum come out and said, "Oh, we're going to take shots at all these crap talkers at us that have criticized us."
Yeah, but here's the thing: Jason Tatum, he did not show up in this series as much as you expected.
Only at the end, only the last two games.
But if you look at the series, and it was again 4-1, it was 5 games. It was pretty quick, this series. 3 out of the 5 games, Jason Tatum was a no-show, and he wants $500 million. That's what he wants, and he's going to get it. The Celtics are going to give it to him. He's young. He's one of the better players in the league, one of the top 7 players in the league. But in the big game, again, we see Jason Tatum not show up. And then when he does show up to the big game, he can't stay healthy. This is a big problem for Jason Tatum over the last 3-4 years. And this Celtic team, year in and year out, they're always in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yep. They've been in the finals how many times with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
They've been in it twice, and they were in the Eastern Conference Finals 5 times in 7 years.
So, and you've only won 1 championship. That, to me, is alarming. Now, Brad Stevens is a great GM. He's a great coach, and he's built this team from top to bottom. He's done everything right. You have to give him a lot of credit. He's found players, and that's what you want. If you're a GM, you want to find these players, and you want to build them, and White's one of those guys. He's one of the better defensive players at his position in the league. He's found a lot of different players in the draft that have been big parts and big points and making that long 3-point shot at the end of what was that?
Pritchard, yeah.
Yeah, Pritchard in the first quarter. I think it was the first quarter.
Yeah, it was at the halftime.
Oh, it was at the halftime.
And they also had one. He also had one in game 2. I think it was in the third quarter.
Yeah, so Pritchard played a very big part in so many ways than one. And that's what you need. You need guys that give you that elevation and elevate you. And I think all the players, especially some of the bench players, elevated this team to a win. Who do we have on?
Our former Celtics fan, Jeff.
Hey, this was an exciting week if you like basketball. This was what was a good series for an Eastern Conference team, don't you think? Because the West has been considered the stronger conference the whole time. It's good to see a team from the East winning.
Well, yeah, the depth of those top 5 teams in the West were definitely much more competition, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I got to give a lot of credit to Derek White, too. Not easy losing all your teeth and still playing through it.
No, Derek White has been sensational throughout the season, and even in the playoffs, he played a big part defensively for this team. So did Drew Holiday, Drew Holiday did not have a good playoff run. I'm going to be honest, but when he got into the finals and he needed to shut down or help shut down Kyrie Irving, he did. And you have to give those two guys more credit than any one of those players, even Jaylen Brown, who won the MVP. When you could shut down a dominant force like Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving could say whatever he wants. And I'm going to get into Kyrie Irving and what he said after the game. But to me, when you could shut down a great player like Kyrie Irving, one of the better offensive players in the playoffs and one of the better ones in the last 20 years, that says a lot about your defense and team defense. So,
well, I think it has to do a lot with Boston, though, too, because he was there. He ran his mouth. He said he was going to stay. He didn't. Boston fans got on him. And for whatever reason, it's not like Boston's the only place that gets on Kyrie, but for whatever reason, that's really bothering him. And I think that's why he was under his point total 4 out of the 5 games in this series. For whatever reason, Boston's a problem for him.
Well, that and the fans. And I thought that to be true, too, going into the series. Speedy, if you remember, I thought the only way Dallas wins this series is they're going to get as much as they got from Gafford and PJ Washington, like they did in the last series against the Timberwolves, and Luka Doncic had to be flawless, because as good as Kyrie Irving is, and again, I agree with Stephen A. Smith going into the series. He was the only real, besides Drew Holiday, the only real champion that's won a championship and has done he was a big part of that championship with the Cavaliers. So was Drew Holiday. I have to give him a lot of credit. I don't know what Stephen A. Smith was thinking when he said that.
No, he was the second best player in that series for the Bucks.
What do you think the highlight of the night was last night? Was it Pritchard's 3? Was it Derek White? Was it Derek White fighting through all the pain, losing all his teeth?
I think it was at the end of the game and watching Al Horford cry.
Yeah.
And Jason Tatum hug him. I think that was probably the thing that spotlighted everything with the Celtics winning. And I have to give I like Al Horford. He's been in the league for a very long time. He played for the Hawks. He's been with the Celtics for a very long time. This guy, he stayed in the NBA to win this championship, and he finally gets a chance to win one, and he wins one. And you see him crying, you see his family, you see Jason Tatum pick up his son and hug his son. That's what you want to see. As much as I don't like the Celtics, you always want to see that. You want to see how much passion these guys have when they win a championship, and well deserved. I'm not going to take away from what the Celtics did. Okay. I'm not. I just thought they had an easy path to the finals, and they didn't. Again, it was probably the easiest championship run I've ever seen a team have.
Yeah.
Well, they did it shorthanded, so I don't know how easy it could be when you do it shorthanded. They even beat the Mavs shorthanded. No Porzingis most of the time.
Yeah, they only lost 3 games, which is I thought was going to be a record. There were a couple teams that lost 1. I was surprised.
They didn't have Porzingis for 20-something games in the regular season. They still had the best record in the league.
Right, so, they knew how to play without him.
That's what I'm saying. They did it without him. They won 64 games.
But they went through the whole playoffs without him, too.
Okay, but they did it in the regular season without him, too. So I don't think it made a difference. As long as their 2 or 3 best players were there.
Right, but it does make a difference because you can – who is he resting against? The Hornets? Well, they're going to beat the Hornets anyways. You know what I'm saying? So when you're like, oh, well, he missed these games. Well, he probably missed the game against the Raptors, and they're bums. But for me – last night, the highlight was seeing Julius Randle at halftime. We finally made it to the finals.
Oh, God, please.
We finally made it to the finals. Let's get the Knicks there. The whole team's going to be there next year.
What is it with ESPN bringing these Knicks to these shows. I don't understand it. I mean, Josh Hart, who barely got a chance to speak, I think he had 3 words.
Well, they wanted real players. There were none on the court, so they wanted real players.
Oh
So
yeah,
they went
real
nuts on the
players.
Knicks.
Real
That's what
players
we did.
that couldn't stay healthy and choked. Yeah, wonderful.
Well, hey, health. Sometimes that's a crapshoot. That is what it is. They got hurt, but they'll be better and stronger next year, and we're going all the way.
I'm
That's
glad
the
you
vote.
think so. I'm glad you think
Best
I do
availability
think so.
best abilities availability, Jeff.
I completely agree. But if we were healthy, we would be there. We would be. But they got all off season to rest. We're going to be a machine next year. Their biggest thing. Hey, they can actually negotiate with OG Anunoby right now. So
Yes.
let's hope they get that done.
I don't want OG Anunoby. I think they're not going. No. And I'm going to tell you why. And I want to finish up with the Celtics before I get into what the Knicks should do in the offseason.
Who cares about the Celtics? They're racist and they don't deserve a parade.
The Celtics deserve a lot of credit. They won their 18th championship. Congratulations to them. I think Brad Stevens deserves a lot of the credit because he built this team. Really, Danny Ainge deserves a lot of credit because he drafted Jaylen Brown. He drafted Jason Tatum. And they built their team around these 2 players. So,
and I know you think Horford is retiring, but he's actually coming back.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. Well,
What do you mean
congratulations.
you're sure he is? 2 minutes ago, you said he's retiring. He's going to walk away.
Well, because
So now
they
you're
asked
sure
him,
he is?
because they asked him after the game, "Are you going to retire?" And he says, "I'm unsure of it." That's what he said. So you say that he is. I'm sure he is.
I'm
Maybe
just
you
telling
think-
you what the Celtics owner said this
All right.
morning on WEEI.
All right.
He said that Al Horford approached him and said that he's returning.
Okay. So, but last night when he was speaking to the press, I don't listen to Boston Celtics radio, so I don't know what he said.
Well, neither do I. I just happen to see it in someone's feed because I know some people from up there and they're just disgusting racist, but someone had posted it, so I haven't seen it.
What I do know is I love Al Horford's passion. I love the person that he is as a man. And
yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, you could definitely like a guy like that because he's one of those guys that are very, very passionate about the game of basketball. So the fact that he's coming back, that's great for it's great for Boston. It's great for the fan base if they love Al Horford. I think that they could fill in
Who
that
doesn't
spot.
love Al Horford though? You're not even a Celtics fan. You like Al Horford.
I like
don't
his
know anyone
passion. I like his
Show me
passion.
someone that dislikes Al Horford.
And I loved him.
That would be the rare.
I loved the way he played on his run when he won a national championship and stuff like that. Al Horford's a good guy. I love his passion, and he's been in the NBA for such a long time, and he doesn't have to be a starter. He could be a role player, but he did a lot. He did a lot for the Boston Celtics over the last couple of years, and he's been a big
congratulations to Neemias Queta. First Portuguese-born player to win a ring, and actually Neemias Queta passed someone else on the list. He now passed Joel Embiid for NBA rings. He has one more NBA ring than Joel Embiid.
Well, Joel Embiid is probably the only MVP center that's never played in NBA Finals.
Yeah, Jeff, I saw another stat because the Celtics were bringing out all their garbage time players at the end of Game 4. Svi Mikhailuk, finals points, 2. Joel Embiid, 0.
Svi Mikhailuk. He's another guy past Joel Embiid. Jared Walsh didn't even play. Still past Joel Embiid.
Kyrie Irving, before Game 5, called the Boston and the Celtic fans a cult. And somewhere you have to show respect. He added that they make you buy into everything about the Celtics culture, or you will be hated forever. The Celtic fans have been chanting Kyrie sucks, F Kyrie during all their home games. ESPN broadcaster Mike Breen, while doing play-by-play, said he heard a fan shout out vulgar language at Kyrie when he went flying into the crowd saving the ball. Breen called the fans' gesture inappropriate and disgraceful, with Kyrie down on the floor. Kyrie had just 15 points and shot 5 of 16 in the Mavericks' Game 5 loss. Here's the thing. I knew Kyrie Irving was going to say something after this series. I knew it. Even if they won, he would have come out and said something about the Boston Celtic fans. And listen, I've been around the Boston fans. Some of them very nice. Most of them crazy. Okay, I'm not going to say I'm not
disgusting
I,
racist.
first of all, I'm just telling you what other players have told me on our radio show and other radio shows that they have said that Celtic fans and Boston fans are racist. But that's not the point here, because when you look at Kyrie Irving, he played for the Celtics. He did. He played for the Celtics, and he promised the Celtics at one point that he was going to re-sign with them, and he was going to stay on and play with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and win a championship with this team. He lied to him. And what did he do? When he became a free agent, he fled to the Brooklyn Nets with KD. Okay? Did it work? No. Obviously, he eventually gets traded over there to Dallas and goes all the way to a championship with Luka Doncic. And he loves it over there in Dallas. All of a sudden, he loves where he is. The fact is, every team has cold fans. Every team. Did you see the Knicks when they won a game in the first round? They went outside Madison Square Garden and they went crazy. Have you ever seen a team or a team win a first round playoff round? Okay. And all the fans go outside celebrating like they won an NBA championship. The answer, no.
Nothing will ever top the Browns having a parade for their
I'm just saying, every team celebrates, every fan celebrates their team. They do. If you're a diehard fan, you're going to celebrate. And it looks like a culture. It looks like a cult. You're going to tell me if the Dallas Mavericks won this series, the fans weren't going to go crazy. They weren't going to flip cars. Look at what the Philadelphia Eagle fans did when they won and they beat the New England Patriots. They were eating horse crap, okay? They were doing that. You're going to tell me that's not cult-like? I mean, and the Eagle players didn't tell them to do that. The owner didn't tell them to do that. They did it anyways because they love their team. The fact is...
So you think the Celtics fans went easy on Kyrie?
I think they did. I honestly thought they did. We didn't see anything get thrown at him. We didn't see any of it.
Which would have been their right, because we know as Islander fans, if someone promises to stay and they don't, it's okay to throw things at them. So think about that. They didn't even throw anything at him.
You're an idiot. But I will.
I'm just heard that.
Yeah, well, you heard that. Good for you. What I think right now of Kyrie Irving is Kyrie Irving needs to keep his 2 cents to himself. Worry about next year. Worry about what Dallas is going to do in the offseason to make this team better. I think P.J. Washington has one more year left. I think Gafford's a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Oh.
P.J. Washington. So much better than Daniel Gafford.
Yes, absolutely. And Derek Lively is a young player, and he started to play really, really well in the later rounds of the playoffs. I really like him too, but I expect Dallas to make some moves in the offseason to make this team better. Luka was not very happy at the end of the game. He did shake everybody's hands and everything like that. At the press conference, he obviously gave his props to obviously Jaylen Brown and Kyrie and all the other players. Jason Tatum. What? I'm sorry?
PR stunt.
Well, yeah, he wasn't very happy. He thought that the referees were not on his side. He thought the referees did not take the Dallas Mavericks sides, especially in Dallas. He thought that they were pretty much on the Celtics side. But the referee,
which isn't true.
I know it's not true, but the referees were all over the place in the playoffs. They were terrible all playoff long. They made a lot of mistakes.
I'll tell you.
Joel Embiid. What did Joel Embiid do to the New York Knicks? How many times did he do so many vicious things to some of the players, and the referees just swiped it under the rug like it was nothing? Look what he did to Mitchell Robinson.
But it's not even just Joel Embiid. Like, I'm a Knicks fan, but it was equally as dirty. Josh Hart shoving Tyrese Halliburton in the back.
Yes, and again, McCollum, what he did to Jalen Brunson. What he did against Jalen Brunson in game 4, game 3? What he did against him, that almost hurt him. So, yeah, to me, it's playoff basketball. Everybody's going to be rough. That's the way the game is played now.
How about last
there's
night?
A lot of flagrants and there's a lot of technicals. It's not like it was in the 90s. I want to see what Adam Silver is going to do in the offseason. He says he wants to make the game more like the 90s play.
Right, but look at last night. Kyrie thinks the refs were on the Celtics side. Look at last night. Did you see the foul P.J. Washington committed on Kristaps Porzingis? Just grabbed him by the shoulders and slammed him to the ground?
Yes, Jeff.
That should be way more than a common foul.
It should be allowed.
It
was allowed in the NBA in the 90s. Michael Jordan was getting his butt whipped.
Right. But we're also not in the 90s. So
I understand that.
By the 90s.
But again, Adam Silver wants to bring back 90s play. That's what he said he wanted to do. He wanted to bring back more defense. And how are you going to do that? Maybe hand checking now. Bringing back hand checking.
But if that were the case, they wouldn't have all these rules where, like, if they call a foul, then they go and assess it, whether it's a flagrant 1 or a flagrant 2. Like, that wasn't in the 90s, so they would get rid of those rules then. They are trying to make it safer. And the fact that he basically picked up kristaps Porzingis and slammed him to the ground, and they didn't review that for more than just a common foul, shows you that they weren't on the Celtics side.
Obviously, you're a Celtic guy, and of course,
I'm a Knick guy.
No,
but
you're a Celtic guy. We know you're a Boston
I'm
fan.
a Knick guy.
Whatever.
Knick guy. Highlight of the week.
Good.
Julius Randle in the final.
Yeah, it was the non-highlight.
OG Anunoby.
Yes.
Jalen Brunson for MVP.
Okay, could you stop? All right, Jeff. Thank you for calling. Thank you very much.
I'm a Knick guy. Why do you keep saying I'm a Celtic guy? Big Knick guy.
Thank you.
Huge Knick guy.
Thank
Me
you.
and Keith, we're going to get season tickets together.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff from Tampa, ladies and gentlemen, a Boston Celtic fan who wants to pretend that he's a Knicks fan. Listen, the Knicks have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do, and we'll talk about that as the offseason comes along. The Knicks have 2 first-round draft picks this year, 4 next year. So, and they have a couple of second-round draft picks this year as well. So the Knicks have a lot of work to do if they expect to be where the Boston Celtics are this year. And they have to stay healthy, by the way. And that's been a big problem. But I'm not here talking about the Knicks. I'm here talking about Kyrie Irving and calling the Celtic fans a cult, okay? They're not a cult. Fans are fans. Deal with it. You don't like it? Then don't play the game. You're making tens of millions of dollars. No other player throughout the playoffs have complained about the fans. Okay? None. Even Joel Embiid, who the Knicks fans were killing him in Philadelphia. He said, listen, it's shameful that in my own stadium, the Knicks fans out-tendered the Philadelphia fans. That's what he said. He didn't throw the Knicks fans under the bus. He didn't say, oh, screw those Knicks fans. Okay? But Kyrie Irving, he thinks the earth is flat. I think his brain is flat. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Kyrie Irving, for all the greatness that he has done in the playoffs, and he's done a lot of great things, and a lot of people, including Stephen A. Smith, that gives him all the props in the world. You have to look at this series and say that as good as Kyrie Irving has been in the playoffs, this is one of the worst we've seen Kyrie Irving in the playoffs. That he got shut down. He looked like he was as puny as the Celtic fans made him out to be.
Yep, well defended in many different areas. Clearly got in his head. I knew they might be able to do it like a couple of games, but usually a lot of times the players will still have those kinds of legacy games too, and shut up the fans sometimes as well. And you never saw that kind of thing with Kyrie Irving. You never looked like he was comfortable at all. I mean, the Celtics defense swarming on him, like you said. Drew Holiday doing a really good job. They even switched some of their bigger guys on him at certain points and just really made life hell for him on the court. And then Kyrie Irving has to naturally just go take shots at Boston fans again, just saying they're a cult. Well, first of all, there's going to be all types of fans, different types of people that are going to be fans. So they're all going to be counterculture like a cult, Kyrie.
Again, Mike Breen was right. Mike Breen was there. He heard the fans. Obviously, he was there. What the fans were saying was probably disgraceful and inappropriate. Obviously, they were probably saying vicious, disgusting, racist words. But we've said this already, that the Celtic fans are racist. You could say whatever you want. They are. They've been CC Sabathia. I met CC Sabathia a couple of years ago at a golf tournament. He said the worst fans in all of professional sports are the Boston fans. We've also had different writers on our show say the same thing that work for the Boston, Globe or whatever. I forget. But they said that the Boston fans are very ratchet and very evil and vicious. Okay, so, and I'm not saying that the Yankee fans aren't like that either, or New York fans aren't like that either. Yeah. But we've heard a lot from other players say that the Boston fans are not very nice to the other players, the opposing teams. So we understand that, but a cult, I don't know about that. I can't see that. The fact that Kyrie Irving had came out and said that after the game makes him look stupid. It really does. It makes him look dopey. But again, Congratulations to the Boston Celtics. Very well deserved. You cannot hate on the Boston Celtics for what they did. And Jaylen Brown actually showing up to a playoff series. I mean, I have to say that about Jaylen Brown because over the last couple of years, he's on, he's off. He's on, he's off. But throughout the finals, and why he got the finals MVP is because he was consistent. He played consistent basketball. And that's why he got $400 million in the offseason. And that's why he's one of the best two-way players in the NBA.
Keith says, Errol says the Philly fans are the absolute worst by far. It happens everywhere. Well, the Philly fans are the absolute worst everyone except for our friend Brandon Jacobs.
No
who
question.
Seems to love them.
No question. ESPN reports that T. Higgins gets a 1-year, $21.8 million deal on a franchise tag. This was the same type of deal that players like Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs signed last year with their teams before eventually leaving. The Bengals have until July 15th to sign Higgins to a long-term deal, but reports say that it is going to be unlikely. Higgins played just 12 games last year because of a rib injury and had 42 catches for 656 yards and 5 touchdowns. Higgins has 403 catches, 3,684 yards, 24 touchdowns in 4 NFL seasons. The Bengals have approximately $21 million in cap space after this move. Here's the thing. Nobody thinks T. Higgins is coming back. No way. Jamar Chase is going to be expected to ask for probably between $140 and $160 million. If he has another one of those seasons with a guy like Joe Burrow, and we expect that he will, he's going to have between 1,500 and 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, maybe even more, and do what he does. Jamar Chase is going to be the highest paid wide receiver in football. If you pay Jamar Chase 35 to 38 million like Jefferson got this offseason, there's no way they're going to be able to afford a guy like T. Higgins. Hence the reason why the Bengals drafted another wide receiver in the draft this year. Because obviously we've seen very, very quickly that T. Higgins is on his way out. They lost another wide receiver in the offseason. He heads over there, I think, to Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. And then they're going to try to bring in veteran players and draft players over the next couple of years and try to fill in the spots. T. Higgins did not have a great season last year. He did not. When you compare his season, I don't want to make any excuses. He obviously played only 12 games last year, and I understand Joe Burrow was hurt approximately, I think 7 or 8 games in the last season, or maybe a little bit more than that. Losing Joe Burrow obviously hurts you. But if you're an elite wide receiver, like Jamar Chase, you're still going to get over 1,000 yards. You're still going to have between 6 and 8 touchdowns. You didn't have that. You didn't. And that's the problem. You expect between $25 and $27 million a year as the second guy on the field. But you didn't prove it this year without Joe Burrow that you could put up those numbers. And yes, you lose your star quarterback. There's no question. But even the Jets, Gerrit Wilson had Zach Wilson throwing him the ball all season long. He didn't have Aaron Rodgers. He had Aaron Rodgers for 4 plays and didn't complete one pass to him throughout the early season because he only played 1 game in less than a quarter. Gerrit Wilson still had over 1,000 yards once again. Now, he didn't have a lot of touchdowns, but he still had over 1,000 yards. That says a lot about Gerrit Wilson and his talent and what he could do if he has a star quarterback getting him the ball. Jefferson, even when Kirk Cousins got hurt, he was still putting up the numbers before he got injured. He was still putting up numbers. As a matter of fact, I think he played 8 games last year, 9 games. He still had over 1,000 yards. I think he had, I don't know what his numbers were, but I think he had like 5 or 6 touchdowns in a very short season. Jefferson deserves that money. You look at T. Higgins, we have to see T. Higgins do it against great talent. We have to see T. Higgins do it when you don't have a star quarterback. Because again, your star quarterback is not going to be healthy all the time. You're going to lose him for maybe 2 or 3 games in a season. He might get injured. He might hurt his thumb. He might hurt his index finger. What are you going to do? Without Joe Burrow, you can't put up the numbers that you had the last 2 seasons? That's a problem. Now, T. Higgins is going to get the money. Somebody is going to pay T. Higgins because wide receivers, especially second tier, and I say he's a second tier wide receiver because we haven't seen him do it as a first tier wide receiver. But a second tier wide receiver this good, he's probably amongst the best in the league, second tier wide receivers. Oh, yeah. You're going to pay him between 25 and 28 million. If a team needs a wide receiver next year, T. Higgins is going to get it. And there are quite a few teams that are going to be looking for a star wide receiver next year. But is he going to be worth it? Is he going to be one of those wide receivers that gets the money and then they can't stay healthy? Mm-hmm. T. Higgins has been in the league for 4 years. 2 out of the 4 years, he hasn't been healthy. That's alarming to me. If I'm a team that's going to be willing to pay him over $100 million as a wide receiver. Jamar Chase, he's been in the league for over 3 years. How many times have we seen Jamar Chase get injured? He was at one stint where he was out for what, 4 games?
3 games with a nagging turf toe or something like that. That was
He played injured. Those are the guys you want to pay. You say whatever you want about Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham was a talented player. Problem with Odell Beckham is he had hamstring problems. When he came into the league, and for the 4 or 5 years he was a New York Giant, he could not stay healthy. So what did the Giants, what did Gettleman decide to do when he became a free agent? He decided to trade him because he didn't want to pay a guy that wasn't going to be 100% healthy. He didn't want to pay a guy that was going to be more in front of the cameras than for his team. Was he right? I don't know. I mean,
it was because I got Dexter Lawrence out of it.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Yeah, I guess you could say Dexter Lawrence. But again, T. Higgins is not going to get paid from the Cincinnati Bengals. He's not. There'll be other teams lining up for him. There'll be teams like maybe Baltimore who could be looking for a number 1 wide receiver next year. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers that have been looking for a wide receiver. They could be another team that is very dynamic, that are just missing that one piece, that one star wide receiver that can get them over the hump.
I know Carolina was very interested in him last year in a trade.
Oh, Carolina is going to be gunning for him.
Yeah, because they can pay him. They don't have a lot of big contracts.
And they'll gun for him because Bryce Young is young. Mm-hmm. They need a star wide receiver that's going to help him develop. You need that guy, that go-to guy that can run routes. T. Higgins is a good route runner, and it can go up there and get the ball. So it's a shame because I would have loved to see T. Higgins play out his career with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, but he wants a lot of money. And for a second-tier wide receiver, especially for a Bengals team that is a contender this year and the next couple of years, as long as Joe Burrow is healthy, the Bengals are contenders. You just paid him a lot of money. Joe Burrow is still the highest-paid quarterback in all of the NFL. He's tied now, obviously. Right. But he's still the highest-paid quarterback in the league. And Joe Burrow is also injury-prone. Joe Burrow has been in the league for 5 years. 3 out of the 5 years, he hasn't been healthy.
Nope.
But when he is healthy, he's one of the dominant quarterbacks in all of football. You could probably put him top 3, top 4.
Easily. And the difference with the Bengals and some of these other teams that have a lot of these wide receiver depth is they can't afford to just replace it with a different quarterback and still make it work. We were talking about it with the Dolphins. Like, do they pay Tua or do they not? Now they pay Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. There's actually a borderline reason not to pay Tua. Same kind of thing with a team like the Rams. They have Cooper Kupp and Nakua, but they have Matthew Stafford on the last year of his contract, and then they could still probably draft a quarterback with now they're getting their picks back and building up a really good young team. The Bengals are not in position really to do that, and that's why T. Higgins is going to have to just play on this franchise tag this year to try to win a ring.
And Keith was saying he will be worth it. Every contract is a gamble in the NFL. Look at Rodgers last year. Did you expect that? Rodgers took less money to play for the Jets last year. He took like almost $20 million off the top to stay with the Jets, to open up, rooms so they can bring in other players to play with Rodgers. So Rodgers I would have never expected Aaron Rodgers to take less money. Even this year, he's taking less money to stay with the Jets and try to win a championship with the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, who would not take less over there to play for Green Bay. He wanted a new contract, and Green Bay was not willing to give him that because obviously they had a great player in Love. But I'm going to say this. Keith, you're right. Every NFL, you can't judge an NFL player for how much they're making, but you can judge an NFL player for how they're playing. Okay? And T. Higgins last year is not worth $25 to $27 million. He's not worth it. If I'm an organization right now that has to pay Jamar Chase $150 to $160 million, probably next year, I'm not going to go out there and say, you know what? We're going to give T. Higgins $25 million. We're going to cut Hendrickson. We're going to cut this guy. We're going to cut that guy just to fill in the spots so we can sign both our wide receivers. It doesn't make sense. Hence the reason why the Bengals decided to draft a wide receiver, I think in the 3rd round.
In the 4th round, and then they drafted one in the 4th round last year as well. And they also, because Joe Burrow has elevated himself to this point where he's a great quarterback.
And he makes everybody around him better.
Right. I think they can afford to try to be able to spend that money to get players that could be of combined production. They also in the offseason traded Joe Mixon as well. So you're shedding a lot of money to try to get more combined production. And I think that's the path they're going to go on with letting Higgins go after this year. Now they kept him. Obviously, they're trying to win a Super Bowl. The Super Bowl's in New Orleans this year, which that'd be quite a storyline for the LSU guys. And you look at like you said, when they're fully healthy, they're still one of the best teams in the AFC, and they've drafted really well. Even losing some other players on defense, they still were pretty good on defense last year. Their offensive line's gotten better, so they know they have a plan to even losing guys to make up that kind of production in a different way. And we've seen the Bengals do that. They went with a different approach at the beginning of the Joe Burrow era, where they went a lot of free agents at first, and then they let a lot of those guys go, and now they're keeping their homegrown guys. But now a lot of those guys are being passed on because they just have drafted so well and developed this system very well. I'm not crazy about Zach Taylor as a coach, but those coordinators, that scheme's really good.
Let's bring Fish in. Fish is a football guy. Obviously, he has all these graphics up for T. Higgins and what T. Higgins wants, and he did sign the franchise tag. I expected him to do that, but I also expect maybe the Bengals to trade him before the season starts, because there are quite a few teams that would be interested and maybe be willing to give up probably a 2nd and a 4th round draft pick to land a guy like T. Higgins. What are your thoughts to T. Higgins? Obviously, he's no longer going to be a Bengal. Do you see the Bengals deciding to try to trade him before the season starts?
You think they are going to have to try to do this? It's one of those things where you got 2 guys, you can't pay them both as a number 1 receiver. And if you're going to pay Higgins, who's like a 1A at best, you can't pay Chase, or you're hamstrung with the rest of your team. So they're not going to do that. So they're going to try to trade Higgins. It makes a lot of sense. But it's very similar to the situation of a guy who I think is comparable and is being considered, was a second team All-Pro last year in Aiyuk, who I know we're going to talk about later. Aiyuk isn't that different of a
We lost
player
him
from Higgins. He's more physical, catch radius type guy.
No, you're a little slow. We got you. You're a little slow over there, but we got you.
All right, that might speed it up. Sorry about that, folks. But I was just saying that Aiyuk is very similar. I don't think he's all that much better than Higgins. I think Higgins suffers from being, an understudy of Chase. I really like what he does. He was more of that, DeAndre Hopkins type of a receiver, Higgins, where he's going to get that, any type of contested catch. You trust him to make that play. We showed the clip of that unbelievable catch from that horrible QB. I forget it was Browning last year. Jake Browning, who I guess was okay.
He was good. I thought he was good backup quarterback this year.
Well, I think Higgins might have made him look good at times. And Higgins had a couple of big games. I had him on fantasy last year, so I know this. He had a huge game, and then he was out. Yeah. Huge game when he came back. He's really got that kind of talent. That's not a number 2 receiver. That's a number 1 receiver with a great, better receiver next to him. He's going to be good somewhere. I think that the price tag's not that bad. Whereas Aiyuk, I don't really think he's a better player. I think they're very similar. similar. To be honest with you, I'd rather get the physical guy that might be a little cheaper.
Well, yeah, Aiyuk is the route running type. He's a little different of a skill set wise than Higgins. Now he's big too. Like he's good with the physical stuff at the line of scrimmage, but he's quicker than Higgins is. But you're right, Higgins is better with the contested catches, the red zone stuff. Not that Aiyuk couldn't do that, but the 49ers don't have him do it as much. And that's where the other thing, like you're saying, the scheme fit might be more ideal for another team where he's going to have better numbers looking at it production-wise because Kyle Shanahan's going to prioritize the running and Deebo Samuel first like he has for 5 years.
I would love to see a guy like T. Higgins go to a team that he is going to be the number one guy. You want to see that, but there are other teams. Look at the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, he could become available. When you look at the situation the Cowboys are in, yeah, they have Dak Prescott. Yes, they're going to Parsons. Micah Parsons is going to want a big contract very, very soon too. Are they going to be able to pay these guys? If Dak has a good season this year, does the Cowboys give him the $60 million? If they do, how are they going to pay CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons? Then they're going to have to decide in the offseason, where do they go? Micah or do they go CeeDee? And maybe CeeDee becomes available in trade talks where you could get 2 first-round draft picks for CeeDee Lamb. So, I mean, there are quite a few teams and quite a few players and wide receivers that are getting a lot of money where they're going to become available because teams are not going to be able to pay them because of the quarterbacks and what they're making. So there's a lot to get into after this season because, again, money is going up. It's gone up, I think, $16 million this offseason, but it's going to go up even more next year with the new TV deals and all the different, Google has a new deal with the NFL and quite there's Netflix, other companies. Yeah, there's a couple other companies working with the NFL moving forward that is going to be added into the cap in the next 2 or 3 years. So there's a lot of money to be spent, and there's a lot of teams that have a lot of money to spend, including the New England Patriots, that are going to have a lot of money to spend in the next 2 or 3 years. So they can rebuild very, very quickly, especially with a rookie quarterback.
They should be a team going after a wide receiver, too.
100%.
And then I know Jeff was saying they were very interested in trading for Aiyuk at the draft, too. Maybe
they'll have the pick of the litter next year.
That scenario might still exist.
No question. Why don't we go to a break? When we come back, we will get into Brandon Aiyuk. Yes, Brandon Aiyuk says that the 49ers don't want him there anymore. Well, we will get into that and where could he go next. There's quite a few teams that I have thoughts on where he can go, where he's a great fit. So we will get into that and much, much more. But first, Tommy Scoops with our Sports Minute.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
That is right. It is the top of the hour. I am Tommy Scoops, giving you guys all the Loudmouth Sports Minute. Getting straight into it over in the MLB. The Houston Astros are placing right-hand pitcher Justin Verlander on injured list due to neck discomfort. After not pitching since June 9th and being scratched Saturday against the Detroit Tigers, Verlander will be reevaluated in 15 days. Going over into some more MLB news, the Yankees' first baseman Anthony Rizzo is expected to be out at least 8 weeks after fracturing his right forearm, but confirmed he will not need surgery and fully expects to return later on this year. Switching over into the NFL, free agent center Connor Williams is in discussion with multiple NBA teams as the former Dolphins center is coming off of a torn ACL last year. Williams says he expects to pick his new team before training camp begins. Now it's going to be time for Scoops of Scores, where I'm going to give you a rundown of all the scores going on. And in the MLB right now, the Yankees have a 1-0 lead over the Orioles at the bottom of the third. Right now, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Miami Marlins are both tied at 7 apiece at the bottom of the sixth. Cincinnati is up 2-0 against Pittsburgh, as Philadelphia is up 1-0 against San Diego at the bottom of the fifth. Seattle has a 6-1 lead over Cleveland in the middle of the fifth. The bottom of the fifth, Arizona has a 4-0 lead over Washington, and Toronto has a 2-1 lead over Boston. Atlanta has a 2-0 lead over Detroit in the middle of the third. And as of right now, currently the Oilers and Panthers Stanley Cup game is set to face off any moment now. It's currently all the time I have for you guys right now. I'm going to kick it back to the boys for the continuation of the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
631-672-3108 is the number. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, the Speedster, Petey Petey. He's not wearing a hat tonight, which is crazy.
I'm not licking anyone.
Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. check out all our shows throughout the week, including The Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Alex Verdugo is one of the hottest hitters right now in baseball. He is crushing the ball right now. The Yankees are just unstoppable. They really are. Even losing Rizzo. And by the way, I want to get into what Jonathan Papelbon said over the weekend, which was very, very interesting about the Yankees. He said that the time will come when the Yankees are going to fall apart. And he believes it will be after the All-Star break. He says injuries will come and the Yankees are going to be gone. I can't wait to prove Jonathan Papelbon to be wrong about that. But we will get into that a little bit later. I know it's not on a list of stuff to talk about, but I saw that over the weekend and I laughed. Why are we listening to Jonathan Papelbon? Okay, a guy that could not stay healthy, one, and number two, couldn't shut his mouth, had problems over there with the Red Sox, had problems over there in Philadelphia. Everywhere he went,
had problems with not trying to choke Bryce Harper.
I mean, the guy, everywhere this man went, he had problems. So why am I going to listen to Jonathan Papelbon? But anyway,
well, one guy the Yankees fans and most Mets fans can both agree to hate.
I couldn't stand him. I couldn't stand Jonathan Papelbon. And then, by the way, he was actually a decent closer for the Red Sox for 2 or 3 years. He was one of the better ones in the league. But when he opened his mouth, he reminds me of Kyrie Irving. That's what he reminds me of. He's a guy that just doesn't know when to shut up. And why is he bringing up the Yankees? He has nothing to do with the Yankees. It makes no sense. So I'm not going to get into it. That's not something that I need to talk about right now. Brandon Aiyuk is the story that I really want to get into next. And, before I get into the Brandon Aiyuk situation, because he's got a lot of reasons why he shouldn't be happy with his organization. The organization is not treating him right. But again, this is what happens in professional sports. You can't pay everybody. And Brandon Aiyuk expects the 49ers to pay him. And Deebo Samuel could be a guy that could be on his way out. We've heard stories. We had a reporter come on our show last week and said something very, very interesting about that situation. But, the one thing I could say about Brandon Aiyuk is he deserves a little bit more credit for his talent on a football field. Obviously, he's not getting it. And, the 49ers, they have to pay a lot of different guys. And right now, they can't afford them. And when you can't afford somebody, you got to go elsewhere. And that's the problem right now. And I'm trying to bring up my stuff, Speedy. It's frozen. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on over here. It's let's go to a quick break. We're having problems with the internet. When we come back, we will get into the whole Brandon Aiyuk situation.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ed Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouth.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. As always, ladies and gentlemen, go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Obviously, you can hear us and listen to us every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Obviously, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. I want to apologize to the fans. I don't know what's going on. It's too hot. It's warm. And our internet is going back and forth. But, hey, we're back. And I definitely want to get into the Brandon Aiyuk story. Brandon Aiyuk posted on a TikTok video yesterday implying that the 49ers don't want him back. He also said this in a video in a chat with the Commanders, Jaden Daniels. And Daniels responded, "My boy," hoping to get him to Washington. Aiyuk also wrote a caption on his post, "I'm laughing, but I'm crying for real." ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reports that the contract talks have stalled, especially with new contracts given to other top wide receivers. Deebo Samuel told Aiyuk to be patient, saying that the 49ers operate slowly most of the time when giving new contracts. Both Deebo in 2022 and Nick Bosa last year got their new contracts in the last month before the season started. And I do not believe Brandon Aiyuk is going to get that contract. I do not. And there's a lot of reasons why I believe Brandon Aiyuk is not going to get that contract. First of all, you just gave Deebo Samuel a huge contract. He's making close to $30 million. You're not going to take and pay another wide receiver $30 million. That's $60 million on your cap, on your hit. And you're still going to have to pay Brock Purdy in the next 3 years, maybe in the next 2 years. If Brock Purdy has another good year, Brock Purdy is going to probably get between $50 and $60 million. You could say whatever you want. You don't think he's a starter, whatever you want. He works very well in the 49ers offense. He works very well in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And if he puts up the statistics that he put up last year and the year before in the second half, he's going to get paid. That's just what happens when it comes to quarterbacks. Quarterbacks do not grow, especially good ones, do not grow on trees. But I'm going to say this. If he becomes a free agent, I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders get him. Because the Commanders, they still have a very good roster. Jaden Daniels and him are very close. They're very good friends. They hang out with each other on and off the field. As you know, Jaden Daniels is a rookie. He's a guy that needs to trust his wide receivers to go out there and catch the ball. And Brandon Aiyuk is one of the better route runners in all of football. There's no question that he is. He's one of the best. Last year, he had his best season of his career. He put up great numbers, maybe because Deebo Samuel was not healthy. He never healthy. George Kittle had one of those great years. He was the best tight end in football. You can argue Laporta was right there with him. Right. He was sensational, one of the better rookies in the league. And I think Sam Laporta is going to be the best tight end in football for many, many years to come. Okay, with the Lions and the talent that they have around them. But Brandon Aiyuk wants between 30 and 35 million. He's not going to get it from the 49ers. And I know Deebo Samuel came out and said that you have to be patient, but you just paid Nick Bosa a lot of money last offseason. You paid him a lot of money. And you have Deebo Samuel making almost 26 to 27 million. You have Nick Bosa now making over 30 million. Now you don't have to pay a quarterback, but you're going to in the next 2 seasons. Because remember, Brock Purdy was drafted in the 7th round. He was the last pick. So you don't have a 5th-year option. You have him for what? Another year, and then he becomes a free agent. So you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy a nice chunk of change. So that's why they decided to draft a wide receiver in the 1st round. Because they drafted a guy that is not Brandon Aiyuk, but he's tough. He can run routes. He could do a lot of different things. He's very fast on the outside, and they believe he's the future Brandon Aiyuk. But Brandon Aiyuk deserves a lot of credit, too. Brandon Aiyuk had a great season last year. There's no question that he did. He was probably top 3. Statistics would tell you he was the top 3 wide receiver, but he didn't show up in the playoffs. He didn't show up in the big game. He didn't. I don't care what anybody says. He didn't show up against the Lions. He made that one unbelievable grab off a helmet.
Right.
Okay. He did not show up in that game. He did not show up in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. He didn't. Now, obviously, you're playing against top-end DB talent. There's no question that you did. But if you want top wide receiver money, you got to show up in the big game. When the time and the going gets tough, you need to go out there and catch that ball. And he did not create space in the Super Bowl. Yes, he played against one of the better corners in all of football. He actually 2 of the better corners in football. Snead obviously is no longer with Kansas City. But again, you sit here and you just wonder, these wide receivers are getting paid a lot of money. And are they going to stay healthy? Brandon Aiyuk, say whatever you want. He's not a healthy guy. He never is. He's been in the league how many years, Speedy?
This is year 4 for him, or year 5.
Year 5.
Same as Higgins.
Okay, year 5.
Mm-hmm.
How many seasons has he been hurt?
The first 2, definitely.
2 out of the 4 years. Yeah. You're going to pay him $35 million? You're going to give a quarter of your team's salary up on a wide receiver that you don't know if he's going to be healthy for a full season or even 12 to 13 games and be ready for the playoffs? You can't do that. And I'm going to say this. There's not many wide receivers that stay healthy. There's not. I'm not going to judge every wide receiver because of their health. But again, Stephon Diggs, I'm not a big fan of his.
We know.
But Stephon Diggs is fairly healthy all year round. He deserves the money. He does. He's not Stephon Diggs that he was 4 or 5 years ago. But when he was, he deserved the money because he stayed practically healthy all season long. Deebo Samuel did not deserve the money. He didn't. Tyreek Hill stays healthy.
Right.
That's why you pay him.
Deebo Samuel wouldn't have gotten that money if the 49ers traded.
I believe Miami's going to regret giving Jalen Waddle.
They might.
That kind of money.
Yeah, if they can't pay Tua and the second option at quarterback is not going to work for them either. Yeah, they're going to be screwed.
I think they're going to have a big problem because Jalen Waddle is not a healthy guy. Now, everybody's going to say he was healthy last year, so you can't say that. But if you look at his career in college and you look at his career, the early career that he has right now in the NFL, and he got a big contract early in his career.
Right.
I think they're going to regret it.
Yeah, and he got hurt middle of last year, too. 2022 was probably the only year he was consistently healthy, and that was it. And again, if they can't hit the quarterback, that's what we were saying with the Bengals before. Like, the Bengals have their quarterback intact. The Dolphins don't. If Tua is not going to stay healthy, then they're going to have 2 really high-priced wide receivers in a system that is not going to be the same if you don't have that quarterback intact. Now, that's the dilemma that the 49ers have, is because the 49ers don't have to pay Brock Purdy yet. And if Brock Purdy's willing to wait on an extension to start later in his time, maybe with more guaranteed money, then they'll pay Aiyuk. But if they feel like they have to pay Purdy now before the quarterback market spikes, Ayuk's gone.
Look at what St. Brown got this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
St. Brown is one of the better wide receivers in the league.
Oh, yeah.
He's now coming into the league, he's been on and off with injuries. He has been. But when it comes to the big game, does St. Brown show up? He does. He shows up. And that's the problem right now. If you're going to pay these guys that kind of money where they're going to make Jefferson type of money, 35 to 30. Jefferson's been fairly healthy his whole career. This is the first season where he only played, 8 or 9 games. But even with 8 or 9 games, he put up crazy numbers.
Yeah.
How many players do you know in the NFL that plays 8 or 9 games and has over 1,000 yards?
I think the only other one was Cooper Kupp the year before.
It doesn't happen. Yeah. It doesn't happen. Okay? That's why he's special, and you have to pay a special player. Jamar Chase is a special player. He's going to get that money. And I look at Brandon Aiyuk and I look at T. Higgins. I think they're special players, but are they elite players? There's 5 elite wide receivers in the league. 5 of them. I don't even think Deebo Samuel is an elite player. The fact that they gave him elite money makes me sick, but this is what these wide receivers are getting paid. They're getting that kind of money.
And the 49ers probably would have been the only team that
I didn't tell you my 5 guys.
Your 5 guys.
My 5 guys. Number 1 right now going into the season is CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
I think CeeDee Lamb, he plays injured. He plays hard. He is sensational. He has no other player on the other side of the field. He is the best player by far offensively for the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody knows it, and you can't stop him. So CeeDee Lamb is my number 1. My number 2, Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, say whatever you want. He's the best wide receiver we've seen, and I believe this since Jerry Rice. Now, if he could stay healthy and he could play 10 great seasons and put up those numbers. Now, we thought that about Odell Beckham, and Odell Beckham could not stay healthy. He could not. And that was the big problem for Odell Beckham, because everybody was like considering him the next up-and-coming superstar wide receiver. It just didn't work out. My number 3, and it could go either way with this, but I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, say whatever you want. Now, he was a late round, 6th round draft pick. He was really used as a punt returner. He calls himself the cheetah, but it doesn't matter where he is. He's in Kansas City. He's putting up big numbers. Oh, he's over there with Tua in Miami. The guy puts up numbers. He deserves all the credit in the world to be where he is. Now, there's one guy from Vegas. Speedy, you know who I'm talking about.
Davante Adams.
And the thing about Davante Adams, he did not have a great season last year.
No.
He did. But he didn't have anybody throwing him the ball. And I still think Davante Adams is a top 5 wide receiver. If he plays with any secondary wide receiver, he doesn't even have to play with an elite quarterback. O'Connell is not even a secondary quarterback.
Right.
So if it's O'Connell this year, I expect Davante Adams to ask for himself to be traded. But Davante Adams is the 4th best wide receiver in football. My 5th, it could go either way. There's a lot of good wide receivers you can put there. But I'm going to put, and I'm going to say this to be very, very nice from last year. Brandon Aiyuk put up elite numbers last year. If he could do it this year, he's there. But St. Brown is my number 5 guy.
Right. The most consistent production of any of those like fringe wide receivers that just got paid type.
Yes.
Right.
St. Brown is my number 5 guy right now in the NFL. What he did last year and the year before. And remember, he was a 4th round draft pick. And the numbers that he's putting up, you have to give him a lot. And you could put Cooper Kupp there too, if you want to put Cooper Kupp.
You're gonna put that
but here's the
yeah.
problem. I don't know if Cooper Kupp is going to stay healthy. If Cooper Kupp is healthy, he's my number 5 guy. But I have to see if Cooper Kupp is going to stay fully healthy this year to put him in my top 5. But right now, I put St. Brown. But those are my top 5. Brandon Aiyuk is going to have to do it again. And again, T. Higgins has not done it. And that's what worries me about T. Higgins. Now, let's bring back Fish. And Fish, you look at my picks, you look at my top 5 guys, and everybody has a different thought on who the top wide receivers are and who would you argue to be 1 through 5. Would you put those 5 guys on your list?
It's hard to argue. The only guy that, we mentioned a second ago is Jamar Chase, who's more, type of what you think he's going to be able to do as opposed to past production. He had the one really elite season, banged up. That guy probably has a higher ceiling than maybe some of the other guys on that list. Definitely more than Aiyuk for sure, who's just under that list. St. Brown had such a good season. He got 1st team All-Pro over Aiyuk's 2nd team, and nobody really argued it. St. Brown was a guy who was just a slot receiver, didn't get to play a lot in college because of COVID at, I believe, USC, and nobody really knew about him, and he exploded on the scene. Aiyuk was a known quantity. He was a 1st-round pick. Those guys, he's everything everyone expected, but he's not special in the same way that some of those guys are special. He's like just a notch below. He's still going to make over $21 to $25 million. We see the franchise tag is 21.8. He's going to get more than that. It's just a matter of where. And if anyone thinks that he can be a number 1 guy after getting shut down in the Super Bowl, are you going to pay him that money and trust him to be your number 1 guy? I don't think he's better than any of those 5 guys you mentioned, and I don't think it's particularly close.
And again, you can go back and forth and you can argue who's going to fit there. And I see what Keith is saying, that Waddle only missed 4 games in 3 years. That's great. But Waddle in his career, college career, and even are you going to pay Waddle that kind of money early in his career when you could have just waited until his 5th-year option and then pay him? Because you don't even know if Tyreek Hill's going to stay. He came out and said that he only wants to play another 2 or 3 years. Why put all your eggs in that basket? And you don't know where that basket's going to go in the next 2 years because Tua might not be your quarterback, and you're going to be looking for a new quarterback, and you have 2 overpaid wide receivers that you have nobody that can get them the ball. So unless you go after Dak Prescott and you're going to overpay Dak Prescott, I don't know if you do that. I think Miami is a very interesting team because they have 2 elite wide receivers. They do. They're really good. Both of them are really, really good, and they're very fast. And they added Odell Beckham in the offseason, so that makes him even more scarier. And they have, obviously, Mostert, who's a fantastic runner, had his best season as a running back this year. I think he had 18 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean,
second to McCaffrey in the league.
And again, they're loaded offensively, and I like Mike McDaniels. I think he's fantastic. I think he's my favorite coach. He really is. I wish the Jets had him. But
no, they went for another 49er.
No, they got Robert Saleh.
They got the other 49er to stifle.
Thank you. Thank you to Joe Douglas on that
But-
one.
Don't sleep on the A-Chain either. Devon A-Chain, he got hurt last year. They're talking about him being more of a gadget slot guy this year with the Tennessee burner they got also in the backfield. So they're going to try to really work that screen game opposite Hill because Hill's, he's going to do that Z thing where he's motioning out.
Here's the problem, Fish. The defenses are a lot better now. This year, when you see even in their own division, I mean, look at the Jets. Adding what they added in the offseason. Yeah, you look at Buffalo, their defenses, they're not as good, especially their secondary, but their front seven is pretty damn good.
They're probably still better than the Dolphins.
They're still pretty damn good. And the Patriots, say whatever you want. The Patriots defense last year was pretty damn good. This year, they didn't really lose anybody defensively, and they're going to be better. Gonzalez is back. He's 100%. You saw what Gonzalez could be. As talented he is. Look what he did against Garrett Wilson against the Jets when he was on the field. He shut down Garrett Wilson. Yes, he didn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball, but he went, tick for tack with Garrett Wilson. So say whatever you want. I think the Patriots defense is pretty damn good too. So that's just their division. Then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have the Baltimore Ravens, you have the Bengals, and obviously the best defense in all of football, the Cleveland Browns. That's just one division. So, and then the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we can go on and on and on and on and on. So, again, the gadgets are great. It worked last year. I think people have seen what Mike McDaniels can do. Teams are going to start. And remember, we watched him on Hard Knocks. So he's got a great personality. We see what he is on and off the field. But teams now know how he is and how he likes to run his offense. Just like they did with Sean McVay. Everybody thought Sean McVay's going to win 3, 4, 5 Super Bowls. How many Super Bowls did he win? He won one. He won one. And he got his butt whipped against the New England Patriots, the other one. So, and that was the best offense in all of football. He got shut down by Bill Belichick. So say whatever you want. I'm not going to obviously just say, hey, you know what? Mike McDaniels is a genius. And remember, he comes from the same tree from Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. Teams figure them out. And I think the Miami Dolphins, as good of offense they were last year, they might not be as good because their defense is not as good as it was last year.
Before we go to break, Keith says Adams declined a lot. I don't think a lot. It was more inconsistent last year.
I had nobody throwing him the ball. I mean, you can't blame Adams. But before the season started, did anybody not have Devontae Adams as a top 3 wide receiver? I mean, everybody did. And I still think he is there. If he goes somewhere else, which I believe he will in the middle of the season, I think you won't be saying anything else but saying Devontae Adams is still a top 3 wide receiver in football. But why don't we go to our Sports Minute? But first, when we come back, we will be talking to Sportsline NFL and NFL draft analyst, our friend, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
8:30 p.m. I'm Tommy Scoops, bringing you guys another Loudmouth Sports Minute. Getting straight into it, over in the NBA, Bronny James reportedly dodging contact with NBA teams after James has had successful workouts with the Lakers and Suns. ESPN's Jonathan Giovanni reported multiple NBA teams cannot get a hold of James. Over in the MLB, Angels Mike Trout. Injury recovery is not going as planned, as the star center fielder, who underwent meniscus surgery last month, says his knee is recovering a lot slower than he had hoped, but said it is getting a lot better. Lastly, over in the NFL, the Bears are signing veteran wide receiver and return specialist DeAndre Carter. Carter last played for the Raiders and even appeared in 4 games with the Bears in 2020, as he is now set to return to Chicago on a 1-year deal. Heading into Scoops to Scores right now, currently the Yankees have a 3-0 lead over the Orioles at the bottom of the 4th. St. Louis and Miami are currently tied up at 7 apiece. Cincinnati with a 2-1 lead over Pittsburgh at the bottom of the 8th. San Diego with a 3-1 lead over Philadelphia in the middle of the 6th. Seattle, 7-1 lead over Cleveland. Arizona with a 5-0 lead over Washington at the top of the 7th. Toronto has a 2-1 lead over Boston at the bottom of the 5th. Right now, Atlanta has a 2-0 lead over Detroit. Tampa Bay with a 4-0 lead over Minnesota. New York Mets have a 1-0 lead over Texas. And Chicago Cubs currently have a 2-0 lead over San Francisco. As currently over in the NHL, the Oilers have a 1-0 lead over the Panthers right now at the top of the 1st period. And that is currently all the time I have right now for you guys. I'm going to kick it back to the boys for their next guest on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all our shows, including Snowman in the Morning and all the great shows that we have throughout the week. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And by the way, yes, the Yankees are kicking butt, as I expected them to this series and throughout the season, because I think the Orioles are having their sophomore run, and I do not think they're the best team in the AL East. That's just my opinion, but we will see as the season moves forward in the second half. But this guy is a big football guy. We have not had him on the show for over a year. He's got a lot of smiling. He's got a lot of dining. Well, he likes to dine with his wife. Or I saw his cat over there. I don't know. We are now talking to Sportsline NFL and NFL draft analyst Steven Vanover. Steve, what's up, buddy?
All right, man. NFL offseason, everything. I love it. There's so much going on and not all at the same time.
Boy, oh boy. And living here in New York, there's a lot going on just with the Jets, because it seems like every single day there's something coming up in the newspapers, the tabloids. And if it's not Aaron Rodgers, it's Robert Saleh saying something dumb or stupid, or somebody else, Nathaniel Hackett, coming out and saying something dumb and stupid. But hey, that's being a Jet fan, just something dopey. But hey, Hassan Reddick, what do you think the Jets are going to do with him? Do you think the Jets are going to extend him? Are they going to give him a contract? We all know the Eagles weren't. The Eagles decided to part ways with him. They made the trade. The Jets bring him in. He's a great fit for the Jets. The Jets haven't had a pass rusher like him since John Abraham. That's a long time ago. What are your thoughts? Do you think Hassan Reddick gets the contract from the New York Jets?
No. I think that they're all in for, the QB, Aaron Rodgers, and they want to wait and see how it shakes out. And they traded to get, everything they could from him, and it's a 1-year deal. Now, if he comes in and continues on his upswing like he did with the Eagles, I thought he really shined with the Eagles. He really fit what they were doing there, et cetera. He understood, and no complaints. He was professional, really, really a good player. If he continues that type of upswing and fits the Jets, he would deserve a contract. But not. I just don't. They would have already given him a new one at this point.
So a lot of the dilemma with the coaching was with the offensive play calling. Oh, Nathaniel Hackett's not going to call the plays full time for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers is going to do some.
What a disgrace.
Robert Saleh is going to do some. And we saw that issue with the Giants last year when Brian Dable was bickering with the quarterback coach, who was bickering with Mike Kafka. So, what are your thoughts of that kind of concept with the Jets?
Well, never say never, but you look at probabilities versus possibilities. It's possible it works out. It's certainly not probable. I mean, you need to go with the system. Everybody needs to be working the oars the same way. you have a quarterback that's very, very particular about what he wants and how he wants it. And if you don't do it his way, he just changes it or ignores you. So if you want to go down that road, go for it. But, expect what you're going to get. I don't understand it. They went all in with Aaron Rodgers. They should go all in with Aaron Rodgers.
And here's the problem, and I agree with you, but Nathaniel Hackett, we've heard all last season, Aaron Rodgers wasn't even on the field. He wasn't very happy with the play calling from Nathaniel Hackett. And now he is the quarterback. And obviously one of the main reasons why he decided to come to the Jets was Nathaniel Hackett. He has a very close relationship with him. He's very close with his family. And Nathaniel has he's very warm to him when it comes to his heart. The only problem with Nathaniel Hackett is he a good offensive coordinator? I believed he was. I saw what he did with Blake Bortles over there in Jacksonville. He took Blake Bortles all the way to the AFC title game. They didn't win, but he helped take them. And that was a great defense. But that offense, especially Blake Bortles, he has, to me, Blake Bortles was a horrible quarterback. And the way he helped Blake Bortles develop the time that he was there with the Jacksonville Jaguars was pretty amazing. So I thought, hey, you know what? You put him with Zach Wilson. Maybe he figures out a little of this and a little of that with Zach. Run him, run his strengths with him and everything, which he didn't, by the way. Everybody knows that a guy like Zach Wilson was so very good outside of the pocket, run and throw. He didn't run enough of those. And when he did, he was successful. If you remember Kansas City, even against Philadelphia, he played well against those two teams. Why? Because they used his strengths. They said, you know what? Get out of the pocket, use your legs, and throw on the run. He did not do that throughout the season. And that's why Zach Wilson has failed as a quarterback. That's the problem, I think, with the Jets. It's just nothing works. And you bring in Robert Saleh, and Robert Saleh is a complete moron. So I've never liked Robert Saleh. I didn't think him taking his receipts or whatever the hell he said.
Yeah, he's keeping receipts.
Keeping receipts or whatever the hell he said was stupid. A lot of stupid things have come out of his mouth. And then he comes out and he says some things this year at the press conferences that make no sense. You're a coach. Now all of a sudden you're going to get involved with the offense. You should have been involved with the offense before that. Now all of a sudden you're going to be a part of the offense. That is just stupidity. You come out and tell the fans that just says one thing about you. Do you have control of this team? Does the team really trust you offensively, defensively, special teams wise? I don't think so. So enough with the Jets. The New York Giants are a team that's there's so many questions. Hard knocks. We're going to see what's going on with this team on and off the field. We all know about their coach. I think he's a quarterback whisperer, but I also believe he could be Chucky or he could be Satan or Hitler. Because nobody in his coaching staff liked him. And there were some conversations that some of the players didn't like him. What are your thoughts to him and where this team is heading this coming season?
Well, it doesn't matter what you were as a coordinator. Being a head coach is a different game. And being a head coach is you have to be a leader of men. You have to be to be able to take guys and get them to give more than they normally give. You have to be able to handle what goes throughout a season. Who knows if this guy can do that? He hasn't shown anything as a coordinator other than being a good coordinator that would tell me that, yeah, this guy is solid. He can do all these things. But, I mean, he does know football, obviously. The Giants made some good moves, necessary moves, let's say, in the offseason. They moved on at running back from the injury-prone Saquon Barkley. They've gone all in on Daniel Jones. You're going to need a whisperer for him. He was abused early in his career, though, and he has talent. It's 50-50 because it's a reclamation project. Those don't usually work out that well.
Let me ask you a question before Speedy asks. Do you think that this season is a make-or-break year? Does he get fired at the end of this year if they have another 3 to 4 win season?
3 to 4 wins, I'd say, yeah, let him go. And I don't think that they would have any problem doing that. But if he puts down anything halfway decent, the Giants have a history of giving head coaches time. That's one thing that they do. They generally do not, make a quick pull. So unless he comes in and has, 3 or 4 win season and or really loses the team. There's something that goes on. Now, you know, I don't know, something weird like he shows up with the slick back hair and everything and wearing dark glasses.
Well, I like the Jordans that he wears. I think he has a good style. I mean, he needs to start going on Weight Watchers or something. I mean,
yeah, that wouldn't.
I
I mean,
mean,
a Giants coach, aren't they supposed to have sandwiches named after them?
Well, Ben McAdoo had a sandwich named after him. The Macadoodle. The
Macadoodle. There it is.
And there you go. But Ben McAdoo, and you said most coaches have a longer leash. Over the last 7-8 years, the Giants have gone through how many coaches? 4 coaches. I mean, the leashes have really turned raw.
It's changed.
It's been raw since Tommy. I mean, and that comes from Bill Parcells' tree. When it's Bill Parcells' tree, they last a long time. Anything else from that, from Ben McAdoo to this guy to that guy to Judge, I mean, every single, from any of the expatriates that fallen from Bill Belichick's tree, which has not been a very good tree, it doesn't usually work out.
No, it doesn't. And I never understood the hires, you know, how they got away from what had been working for them and went down these other roads. And it's, you know, they had plenty of logic behind it at the time, but it wasn't the Giants' way. And whenever they have strayed from the Giants' way, well, just ask Tom Coughlin what happens.
So a quarterback contract, a big one last week was Trevor Lawrence, $55 million a year, same as what Joe Burrow got. What are your thoughts of that?
Horrible.
I mean, wow, the contracts right now, I mean, there's good ones and bad ones, and it is what it is insofar as the money. Is any given player worth it? You know, it's not a matter if you're worth it or not. Kirk Cousins proved that. He got some of the smartest contracts in the world. The quarterback that used to play for the Rams, Green, the same way. Being in the right place at the right time means you get paid. It's not based on what you do. It's based upon supply and demand at that given time. And
Kirk
that's
Cousins
just the
is
way
a
it's
better
done.
quarterback than Lawrence, okay? I'm sorry. Everybody likes to take shots at Kirk Cousins. I mean, if you look at his numbers, you can argue that Kirk Cousins in the last 10 years has been one of the elite quarterbacks in the league. He hasn't won anything. He's not a winner. Either is Dak Prescott. But guess what? His numbers would show you that he's an elite quarterback. Trevor Lawrence hasn't done anything. What has he done? One playoff series, one playoff game, and
he got 2 modeling contracts. 2 modeling contracts.
Yeah, that's another. That's another thing. I mean, he reminds me of that Sunshine from that movie. What's that movie?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The Titans.
Yeah, remember the Titans? He was Sunshine. I mean, seriously.
No, Sunshine had a better arm, I think.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the next big thing. I mean, Andrew Luck. Everybody was comparing his skills to Andrew Luck and this guy and that guy. By the way, C.J. Stroud has been the closest thing to Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and all those other guys. I mean, C.J. Stroud, and I want to see him do it a second year. Good. Yes, I want to see in the second. But C.J. Stroud had all the rookie. What was it? No. He had all the rookie stats this year. He broke almost every single rookie stat this year. As a rookie,
you mentioned some quarterbacks there real quick that had a lot in common. Cousins, Dak Prescott, they have a lot in common with a lot of these wide receivers right now that are looking for the big contracts and are finding some problems getting it. Brandon Aiyuk, etc. They're regular season champions. They all do great in the regular season. They're not tier 1 talent. They're tier 2 talent. They haven't proven that they can. I believe you were mentioning it in the earlier segment. They don't show up in the big games. You can't rely on them to. You know, maybe they did have an okay game, but they're not showing up. They're not doing what an elite level, a tier 1 player does. They're 2-tier players. I mean, nothing wrong with that. They got a lot of talent. You can win a lot of games with that, but it's not playoff football. That's a different level of talent. And I believe on any crew, those players on any position, those players are finding it harder and harder as they move to their career to find the better deals, especially with the wide receivers and the cornerbacks, because right now college football is producing some pretty NFL-ready wide receivers and cornerbacks, and the Chiefs have proven that, you know, if you got a good quarterback, you can work this wide receiver thing.
So, what are your thoughts to the rumor of the NFL expanding to an 18-game season with an extra bye week? They said they're going to get rid of a preseason game. What are your thoughts to that?
It's going to happen. They've been talking about it, and trying to push it every year. Is it going to happen this year? Maybe. I figure more like next year. It's definitely going to be done. They don't really care about the preseason because they don't get the good money for it. They'll move around and do some math and try and say it's the same amount of games, but an extra regular season game, man, players can only take so much. I just do not know about the quality of the football and what you're doing to the playoff football when you put that extra regular season hit on these players, how it's going to affect the quality of the playoff football. I really don't know.
As everybody knows, we are talking to Sportsline NFL and NFL draft analyst Steven Vanover. He's been on our show before, been a big fan of ours, and we're a big fan of his and what he does right now as an analyst, as a writer. So, Steve, you look at the NFL and everybody keeps grading everybody's draft. Oh, this team did great, that team. But we never know what these drafts are going to turn out to be. You have to wait 3 years. That's what you usually say. But one team that everybody's been saying, wow, this team slam dunk in the NFL draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are your thoughts on some of the moves that Pittsburgh Steelers made this offseason? And what are your thoughts to their draft? Where did you grade them? And where do you see this team going this year and in one of probably the hardest division in football?
Draft grades. That's something invented by GMs who try to validate their position and their job. I really changed my point of view on that when I really started studying what Jimmy Johnson did in the draft for the Cowboys. He just had some players he wanted, and he didn't care where he got them, so that they would fit his team. Whereas when you grade a draft, you're doing what Jerry Jones loves. He wants to talk about draft value. It doesn't matter the value of it. Did you get a player that fits your team, and did you get enough of them in the draft? That means you had a good draft. I agree with you about waiting to 3 or 4 years. All that being said, the players that the Steelers get, they're getting Steelers players, and they're getting them. I mean, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you hate the Steelers draft because they always manage to take the good player right before you take the guy that really sucks. All right. I mean, that's the truth of it, man. I mean, you do not want to be like right behind the Steelers in the draft if you're the Dallas Cowboys, because they're going to get the player you should have drafted, or even better yet, if they draft right after you, they'll take the one you should have drafted. Okay. They know how to handle the draft for their team and the players that fit their team. They know how to move on from somebody if it doesn't work out. Look at what they did at quarterback. They moved on. That's the biggest question mark for them is quarterback. But hey, they got a game plan. You got Tomlin. You got to go with him. He's got the same thing Belichick had going. Belichick got on a roll, and he was at the top of his game.
Belichick won. Tomlin's won one.
True enough, and you're counting what really matters. There's only one game that really matters.
That's right.
Mad respect for that way of looking at it.
Andy Reid, how many times have we said, "Oh, Andy Reid's just not a winner. He knows how to get there."
I
but
love
he can't
Andy
win."
Reid, man.
Now all of a sudden, Andy Reid's the best coach right now in the NFL, and nobody could say anything bad about him because I don't know. He's won 2 Super Bowls pretty damn quick, and he has a chance to win 3 in a row pretty quick too. So, I mean,
how does he not win a Super Bowl when he was with the Eagles? He's not really doing anything different. This is all Andy Reid football. I mean, all along, he's always been this way. He's always gone for speed. He's always loved to do that. He's always wanted a quarterback that can move outside the pocket and make plays on the run and everything. That is,
I love
Andy
Donovan
Reid
McNabb.
Yeah.
I love Donovan McNabb. I love him, but he is not Patrick Mahomes.
Oh,
I'm
not even. No.
I'm sorry. And Donovan, I love you. You know you were one of my favorite players. You were as a growing up. I'm a Jet fan. But if the Jets never made it, which they never did, I always rooted for the Eagles because I was a Donovan McNabb fan. I followed him in Syracuse. I followed him right into the NFL when he was drafted in the first round.
He's a great player.
I love him.
He's a great player.
Love him. And by the way, he's one of the biggest quarterbacks in person you'll ever meet. The guy is buff. I'm a pretty big guy. The guy is a big man, okay?
I
And
remember how hard he was to bring down.
Mhm.
I mean, he would stand there and make pass after pass with the guy hanging on him. I mean, he would just ignore it. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger can also do that.
Yep.
But, I mean, he was incredible, just shaking stuff off and making plays after almost anybody would have been, brought down. Yeah, he was strong man.
Yeah, so the NFL draft quarterbacks, a lot of them are polarizing this year. Penix and Knicks going as early as they did. Obviously, Caleb Williams, all the off-field distractions that everyone's claiming and all the other stuff. So what are your thoughts of the first-round quarterbacks that got drafted and where they got drafted?
It's a quarterback league, man, and it is, never by before. What was it? 5 of the first 6, something like that. I mean, it just incredible. But it's what it's a copycat league right now. And right now, teams are looking at it saying, okay, you draft a rookie QB, you've got that rookie QB money window, so you can go ahead and build a team around him with all this other stuff, and you got to really use that. That gives you a win window right now. So GMs love this game plan because they get to keep their jobs right now. Coaches love this game plan because they get to keep their jobs right now. It's being copied by all over the NFL now. And it's not all that successful. It's been done a time or two. But, I mean, other teams are doing other things now. But right now, that is what pushed and drove.
And let me ask you a question. What the hell is Atlanta doing? You give a quarterback $100 million, and then you draft a quarterback in the top 10. What common sense does the Atlanta Falcons have with a coach, first-year coach with Raheem Morris, which, by the way, wasn't successful when he was a coach a while ago, and then decide, hey, you know what? We're going to bring him in. We're going to bring Raheem Morris in when we could have brought Bill Belichick in and put in a championship-minded coach with a quarterback that actually has never won, can never get over the hump. Maybe Bill Belichick could have gotten more from Kirk Cousins than anybody.
Oh, you know it. Oh, 100%. But in answer to your question, I have an answer for you, and you will agree with me. What was Atlanta doing? They were being Atlanta.
Well, I hope you're not an Atlanta Falcon fan.
I mean, they have had so many opportunities with good talent. They have good talent on that team right now. That's what could Bill Belichick have done with all of that talent on that team, offensively and defensively? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I remember, the last time you were on our show, you said they were going to be a top 5 offense.
As long as that quarterback came together, I did throw that caveat in there, and man, he just did not. I don't understand, again, Atlanta being Atlanta, why they got away from what they were doing earlier. It's like with Dak Prescott, when he was a rookie, they simplified the offense, and man, it went great. They were incredible. Next year, they tried to do a bunch of stuff. He had an okay year, but he had some games they lost because it just wasn't working. And I'm like, why get away from that stuff that was working? It wasn't broke. Nobody could stop it. I understand it was simple, but, why not stick with it? And they did the same thing there. They gave him a simplified offense, put him out, let him run, and he was being effective. Then they tried to take him up to the next level, and he's just not capable. So,
as everybody knows, we are talking to Sportsline NFL and NFL draft analyst Stephen Vanover. Steve, you look at the league now, and they have that new kickoff rule, and everybody loves it. There's going to be a lot of scoring now. I think it's going to absolutely benefit the Kansas City Chiefs. They'll love it. They're licking their lips right now because they have Xavier Worthy that can run the ball. They have all this speed that they have. And now teams could actually start on their 50-yard line or the other team's 40-yard line before they even throw a ball. And that could happen significantly throughout the game. So if you're getting how many kickoffs? What are you getting? 5-6 kickoff a game? You have a chance to score 60, 70 points in some of these games. I mean, Kansas City could destroy some of these teams the way they love to throw the ball. I mean, what are your thoughts to the new rules? Do you like them? Do you think that Roger Goodell's an idiot? I do. So that's just my opinion.
That's a separate conversation as far as Roger Goodell, but I agree with you 100%.
I'm sure Kendall thinks he's an idiot.
But there it is. It's going to change the game so much. I mean, they want scoring. So there you go. They're going to get what they want. And it's definitely going to create that opportunity. I think you're also going to see, as a nuance here, you're going to see people go for kickers, maybe carry 2 kickers, because on kickoffs, the last man is so often your kicker. With this field like this, that makes him so much more important. And I think they're going to go with more athletic kickers, guys that look, okay, you don't have to be able to kick at 80 yards. That's not the big deal here. I need you to put it in play, and you're going to have to be the last man. I need you to be able to cover sideline to sideline. And there's a few guys who can kick and do that. There's a few in the league right now. And they got to be licking their chops because they just got job security.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs even said that they were going to consider using like a non-kicker to kick off sometimes.
Yeah, he's the kicker. He's their cornerback, I think, or wide receiver. I can't remember the guy's name right now.
I think it was Justin Reed, who's a safety. I think that was
That's
the one
it. That's it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, and you're right. They might do that. I think we had other guests that were saying like they might add some more like linebackers and running backs on that instead of like the traditional speed kick returner.
I was thinking about it. I don't really like the rule because I think it's going to affect the game offensively. And these defenses are going to be really, really drawn and very, very tired moving into the second half of the game. Because if you're starting on your 50 or the other team's 50 every single time, if you're playing Kansas City and they have like Xavier Worthy who can run, what did he run? A 4.22 or something like that?
Right.
And he can run every single time. They can't run until it hits the ground or he catches it. So you're giving him automatically he's going to get 20 to 25 yards automatically.
Just turn on the jets and go look for the crease. If you see the crease, take it. You're gone. It's that simple. It's a one-cut. It's a one-cut play. It's a one-cut play every time. I think it's going to be a boring play. It's going to score.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be boring. I think it's going to be fun to watch. But, as a Jet fan, and everybody knows what the Jets do, they screw up. So I'm going to watch the Jets are going to have like a 21-0 lead. And then all of a sudden you're going to see the special teams fall apart. And 21 points is going to be right up on the board in no time. That's what happens with this. I don't like it because teams work their rear ends off trying to score points, and you got a team like the Kansas City Chiefs that are scary. You got other teams offensively like the Miami Dolphins. They're scary with the talent that they have.
The speed that they have. The speed that they have.
It's great. Speed kills.
Oh, man. It's like when in the NBA and basketball when they're talking about how some guys can jump. A lot of guys can jump to the top floor, but only a few can make it to the penthouse. And it's the same thing with the speed. There's a bunch of fast guys in the NFL, but only a few guys can really burn. And I think they all play for Miami. It's like, geez, man, they put together just a team. Wow.
Well, that was an oxymoron right there, Steve, because you said that there's only a few players that like to burn, but I think every single player in the NFL likes to burn.
All right, a nod to Ricky Williams. All right.
Anyways, Steve, we really appreciate you. Keep up the good work. Love your writing, and we will talk to you soon, bud. We'll get you on very, very soon.
Always a pleasure, man. You guys take care, all right?
Stephen Vanover, Sports Line NFL and NFL draft analyst. He's fantastic. Go check him out, his stories, and all the draft stuff that he does when the draft's around the corner. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on our show, yes, we will be talking to Super Bowl champion guard, current Middle Tennessee State offensive line coach, Kendall Simmons. But first, our Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
It is the top of the hour, and I am Tommy Scoops, bringing you guys all the Loudmouth Sports Minute. Jumping into the news over in the WNBA, Sunday's Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky matchup made history, bringing in a nearly 2.3 million viewers, being the most viewed WNBA game in 23 years. Over in the NBA, former NBA players DeMarcus Cousins and Quinn Cook to join Dwight Howard on Taiwan team. The Taiwan Mustangs, who signed Howard last month, will be bringing in ex-Lakers in Cousins and Cook to the team. And lastly, in the NFL, 49ers say that they would love to keep Brandon Aiyuk, as ESPN's Adam Schefter reports that team does want him there, and they just don't want him for the price that he is looking at for right now. So more on that soon as the season progresses. And going into scoops and scores right now, currently over in the MLB, the Yankees with a 4-0 lead over the Orioles at the bottom of the 6th. Right now, St. Louis has an 8-7 lead over Miami at the bottom of the 10th inning. San Diego with a 3-1 lead over Philadelphia. Seattle with an 8-3 lead over Cleveland. Arizona with a 5-0 lead over Washington. Toronto with a 3-2 lead over Boston right now. And Atlanta with a 2-1 lead over Detroit. Tampa Bay and Minnesota are both tied up right now at 4 apiece, with the Mets and Texas as well, both tied up at 1 apiece. The Chicago Cubs have a 2-0 lead over San Francisco, as the White Sox have a 1-0 lead over Houston, and Colorado has a 4-0 lead over LA. Over in the NHL right now, at the end of the first, the Oilers still remain with a 1-0 lead over the Panthers. Currently all the time right now that I have for you guys. As always, I'll be back later in the show, and here is the boys back with their next guest on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Willie Whoppers, Speedy! Willie Whoppers!
No, I won't. I'm not licking anyone. Unfortunately. Maybe cure some other generations.
Do you bend the meat?
It's good for both.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy P every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out all our local listings for all our shows is go to our website and go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Thank you to Sportsline NFL and NFL draft analyst Stephen Van Over. He was fantastic. And now, ladies and gentlemen, he's never been on our show. We're very excited to have him on. We are now talking to former Super Bowl champion guard and current Middle Tennessee State offensive lineman, Kendall Simmons. Kendall, what's up, buddy?
Not a thing. How's it going, fellas?
We're good, man. And you look pretty good. You look healthy.
I feel pretty good, man. I try to look the part, at least let the young lineman that I'm coaching still see that I got a little bit left in the tank.
You definitely have enough left in the tank. You look good and you look healthy, and that's all that matters. We've spoken to a lot of ex-NFL players. They've had problems. What are your thoughts right now with the CT situation over the last couple of years and what the NFL is not doing for some of the old players that have been in the NFL?
Well, here's the thing. I think they're making ground on some of the things that they're doing, but those older guys laid the foundation for us. And I feel like the more you can do for them, the better, because then it lets us know that you're going to help us out at some point moving forward as players, as former players. So that's something that I wish they would do a better job of, is just reaching out and helping those guys.
Yeah. So one of the things I think with offensive linemen that you see a lot is these injuries to these lower bodies, and we're seeing like the grass versus turf debate. Like, what are your thoughts to that?
I'm a grass guy. Even right now, and I'm a new head O-line coach at Middle Tennessee State. We have turf, and I get it. It's less maintenance that you have to worry about, but it wears a big man body out. It really does. You have to monitor that and really cut back on the reps and watch what you do on the field. Grass is a lot more forgiving than the turf is. So I see it. I can understand it in colder weather areas, but preferably it's better on big guys.
We are talking to former Super Bowl champion guard and Middle Tennessee State offensive line coach, Kendall Simmons. Kendall, your Pittsburgh Steelers had a very good offseason. They added two really good quarterbacks, as you see. Russell Wilson, I wonder, they got him on the cheap, and Justin Fields, I believe, is the future quarterback of this team for a 6th-round draft pick. He's a steal, and you had one of the best drafts. You know Mike Tomlin. What type of coach is Mike Tomlin, one? And number two, what type of team do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers have in probably the hardest division in all of football?
Mike Tomlin is a no-nonsense type of coach. If you have a fragile ego, you're going to the wrong team. You're on the wrong team. Don't ask him a question if you don't want the hard truths from him. And that's something that I love about the type of coaches that he come from. I work for a coach, and Coach Derek Mason, who is the same exact way. You ask him a question, He gonna give you the hard truth. It's not gonna be exactly what you want to hear, but you ask the question, and you got to play for him. That's one thing. He gonna hold you to a standard, and there's a standard that he's not gonna waver from at all. And that's the one thing that is reason why this team has been successful. Hasn't had a losing record under him, and I honestly believe that we're headed in the right direction. We're back to the point where I feel like the offensive line is going to be the key for the team, which they have not been the last few years, in my opinion. With the young draft that they've had in the last couple of years and bringing in, especially the big guard from Philadelphia. I love that guy. You bring it back a toughness, and it starts up front, and it always has been with Pittsburgh. And now you can start seeing the team start to do what they need to and take some of the pressure off the defense.
So you play with both Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin. What are some of the differences with both of their coaching styles and who they were on and off the field?
Honestly, both of them are player coaches, but I would say Coach Tomlin is a little more hard-nosed than Coach Cowher was. Now, Coach Cowher had his thing where he's like, look, I understand the player side of it, but please don't push my buttons. Coach Tomlin never really let it got to that point. He set a standard, and if you even toed the line, you wasn't gonna like what you got from him. And I think he needed to be that way for one with a young team. That team was in transition when Coach Tomlin got there. The team was transitioning to a younger team, a different type of team, and I feel like that's what they needed. And he's held that standard ever since then, and that's the reason why he's been there so long.
We are talking to Super Bowl champion guard and current Middle Tennessee State offensive line coach, Kendall Simmons. Kendall, you look at the NFL right now, and there's a lot to get into, especially some of your ex players that play with you. One of them, Antonio Brown. Now, Antonio Brown is a great personality. I've heard a lot of good things about him in the past, but there have been problems over the last couple of years. I know he was hit by Vontae Burfict quite a few times to the head. What are your thoughts to some of the craziness that's happened on the field and off the field with, I believe, one of the great personalities the NFL has ever had?
That's one of those things where that is a real thin line. You can see it's a lot of correlation you would think with the whole CTE thing, and I hope it's not. Those are one of those things you don't pray that you hope that it's not something that will happen to anybody, because it usually doesn't end well. I'm hoping that whatever it is going on in this young man's life, he finds some clarity soon, and it doesn't end up being that type of disease that ends up eventually taking young men's lives. So I just think a lot of it is just the missing the game, the camaraderie in the locker room. That's what holds a lot of us together, to be honest with you, man. I think that we have a tendency to lose ourselves sometimes when we're not in our surroundings and we don't really have that structure and have something to kind of keep us together. And I can commend Coach Tomlin and that Steeler organization for doing what they did with him. So I think a lot of it, he might be just missing some structure, and that's just my opinion.
So you being a coach now in college and also like seeing these younger offensive linemen come into the NFL, how do you think the position has changed for like all three positions in comparison to when you played?
Be honest with you, you can see to me, I think it's a lack of physicality and a lack of fundamentals up front. And a lot of it has to do with they don't wear pads as long as we used to back in the day, and they don't hit and do a lot of things. So the game has changed. To me, it's more of a sideline to sideline game than it is a downhill game. You got more zone running instead of man schemes and things like that. That has changed the game up a lot less power schemes and counters and different things where you're going downhill, and that's just part of it. So the guys are different. They really are. So I just think that's the big difference in the game.
We have breaking news, Kendall. Willie Mays passed away just a few moments ago. So Willie Mays, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, Barry Bonds' godfather, one of the most electrifying players we've ever seen on a baseball field. I never got a chance to see him on a field, but I've seen videos of what he is and what type of player he was and what he stood for Major League Baseball and everything that's going on in the world right now today. He will be missed. So My shout out goes to the family of Willie Mays and his wife. May he rest in peace. So.
Same here. I just saw it when I was in the background on the studio before you brought me in, and that was a surprise to me as well. I've never seen him play live, obviously, and I got several of his baseball cards, and I just remember my dad telling me stories about him, and he's led generations of baseball players, and definitely some. I remember being in the backyard and guys, want to act like him, and my dad telling me stories. So. Yeah, definitely. Same here. Prayers to his family and everybody that's related to him.
Absolutely. And to me, the craziness of what's going on in the world. I mean, and I always believe deaths, start in threes. My mom always told me when somebody big dies, you're going to see 2 or 3 other people go just as fast. So it's a shame, but Willie Mays had a long lasting life, and he absolutely will be missed.
Yeah.
We go back to the NFL, and you look at the game. And an offensive line is built through the trenches. Everybody says if you don't have a good offensive line, you're not winning a Super Bowl. You can have the greatest quarterback, you can have the greatest offense, but if you don't have an offensive line that can protect the quarterback and work as one, you're not winning anything. Tell us a little bit about that team that you won a Super Bowl with and how dynamic it was playing with Ben Roethlisberger.
Well, let's start with Big Ben. Big Ben was basically an undersized tackle playing quarterback anyway. He really was. I told people before, and I said this a million times, it was extremely frustrating to play with him at times because of sometimes how he held on to the ball. But that was the most exciting times as well because he made such big plays by doing that. And that's what I feel like made us a better team. Now you go to the offensive line. You have Alan Faneca, who's a Hall of Famer. Marvell Smith, who made a couple Pro Bowls. Jeff Harding, who made several Pro Bowls. I'd have Big Mac Starks next to me, Willie Colon. That offensive line was built to go downhill. And one thing that we prided ourselves on is that 4-minute drive at the end of the game. We might not score any more than like 21 to 28 points a game, but if it was 4 minutes left to go and we had the lead, we felt like we were going to end the game with the ball. And Jerome and Deuce Staley and Fast Willie Parker and those guys, Najee Davenport, were going to get us where we needed to get to. So that's the one thing I loved about playing with that group. We were close together. Trey Essex, you had Chris Kivamatu. You had several guys on that group. And I know I'm missing some names there, but I enjoyed playing with every last one of those guys during that time when I was there.
Yeah, but one of those guys, I see you have the big beard now, Max Starks, who you play with, had that big afro. And,
Yeah.
Brett Keys, I have to ask, which of them was the most iconic hair?
The most iconic hair. Oh man,
your beard.
The beard was definitely Kiesel.
Okay.
The beard was definitely Kiesel. And I would say Alan Faneca had one at one point that was pretty good, and Chris Kiyamatu. The hair itself. That's nobody but Troy Polamalu. You can't beat Troy's hair. That's hands down with him. So,
speaking of Troy Polamalu, I seen a lot of crazy things with him on the field. You had some different personalities there. Le'Veon Bell was a personality. Troy Polamalu was a personality. Ben Roethlisberger was a personality. Who had the biggest personality on your team? What stood out to him from all the other players that you played with?
I think you know this one. That was Joey Porter of all people. Joey Porter, the late Clark Higgins, those guys stood out. They really did. They really did. And they kept life on our team. That was one thing I could say about Joey. I'm glad he was on my team and I didn't have to deal with him on the other side of the ball. That's the one thing I can say. Another guy who had a lively personality was James Harrison. James Harrison, we called him Silverback. He definitely had a lively personality. Let's see.
His workouts are ridiculous.
Oh, I mess with him now. I'm like, dude, why are you still doing this at this age? I don't understand what the point is. Like right now, I hurt just looking at half the weight that he's lifting. I was like, I'm not even trying to even touch any of that. So yeah.
It's amazing. I watch all his workouts. I mean, his squatting and his benching. I mean, he's benching like 600 pounds. And he's doing it at the age of like 45 years old, 46 years old, and he's doing it with ease.
Yes, it does. And I was like, what's the point? Like I quit lifting like that over 10 years ago. And I still couldn't even get close to how much he's doing in my prime. So I remember working out with him and I'm just like, just go somewhere else. You embarrassing everybody else here. I don't even want to be nowhere near you right now. So he's definitely a monster now. Ain't no doubt about that.
He could still play in the league. And when I watch Terrell Owens,
yes,
and watch him run, and I really think he could play in the NFL. I really do.
Yeah,
he's unbelievable. He's a physical Some of these guys, they're just built differently. He's built differently, and so is James Harrison. These guys are just Buicks. I've never seen anything like it before.
Yes, and here's the thing. And you probably know this, and I tell people this story all the time. You know, James Harrison got cut 3 times. He was the laziest person I've ever seen at one point. We came in together. And I'm like, what is up with this dude? Like, he hated running. He didn't like doing any of that stuff. And he's going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point. So that's crazy how a light bulb flipped on for him. And he was a late developer. But kudos to him because he's worked his ass off. And that's one thing he's still showing it, man. He really is.
That's Mike Tomlin. I do believe that. Mike Tomlin pushes all the right buttons. That's why he's never had a losing season. He's probably never going to have a losing season because he pushes the right buttons. It doesn't matter who his quarterback is. And go look at his quarterbacks the last 2 or 3 seasons. They're not good. And for some way or somehow they find these guys. TJ Watt, he fell all the way to 23, 24. They draft him and he's arguably the best defensive player by far. He's going to go down better than his brother JJ. Who would have thought that? That's how good he is. He could go down as the best Pittsburgh Steelers defensive player of all time when he's done. It's unbelievable how good this kid is.
That's true. I can say this. I was training to be a scout. I wanted to be a scout before I got into coaching. And I did a scouting internship with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I remember TJ Watt coming in. And I looked at him and I'm like, okay, he okay, but I'm not seeing what the whole hubbub is about. Because Villanueva was just kind of putting a big long arm on him and kind of washing him by. And I'm like, okay, he's gonna be all right. This dude now is untouchable. Like, it's amazing to watch him play, man. It really is. But like you said, they know how to evaluate and they know how to push buttons, man.
So the AFC North had a lot of fierce rivalries. So what were some of those rivalries like with the Bengals and the Ravens and even some individual players? Who were some of those toughest guys you had to play against on the defensive line?
The toughest, the most underrated defensive lineman for Baltimore was Kelly Gregg. Kelly Gregg. People don't realize how good that little squat body was. That fella, he could play football now. He was really good. You look at him, he was unassuming. He talked to you, kind of had like I don't say a squeaky voice, but his voice was, it wasn't nothing intimidating about him, but he could play football. The one that was probably the toughest of all of them would be Haloti Ngata and Chris Kiamatu's brother. I forgot what is Maki. He was that big nose tackle. He was good. Gerrit Johnson. He gave me issues, and I remember playing against him when he was at Alabama, and me and him was cool. He was about the only person I could actually talk to on the team, just because I remember from college that I did not dislike at all. And everybody else was really good. Ed Reed was actually my roommate in the combine.
Wow.
And I would say with the Bengals, trying to think what the guy's name is. Forgot. Dang it. Number 94. Number 94 with the big hair.
Pico.
Yes, I love Pico. Pico's great dude. I met him, and me and him coached together at the NFL PA Bowl. He was really cool, but he was one of the toughest defensive linemen I played against with Cincinnati. And Cleveland was he played with Pittsburgh. Started out in Pittsburgh and went to Cleveland. Orpheus Roy.
Yeah.
Orpheus Roy was a good one. And Earl Holmes. I had Earl Holmes when he was in Cleveland a little bit too. So those were good. I think right now Pittsburgh is building themselves to be a team that will challenge Baltimore. They got along. I still think they got a ways to go because of the offensive line, the difference in offensive line. And I know Baltimore has lost some guys, but adding the running back, adding Big Henry this year helped them. But I think Pittsburgh has really gained a lot of ground on Baltimore. If they don't watch out, we'll be back at the top again.
We are talking to former Super Bowl champion guard and current Middle Tennessee State offensive line coach, Kendall Simmons. Kendall, I've watched a lot of football in my time, and so have you. You've played a lot of football in your time. Who that you remember had the biggest mouth, who caused more problems on the field than he did playing the game, and what type of player was he when you played against him? Is there a particular player that really stood out from all the rest that had the biggest and the most aggressive mouth on the football field?
Well, on my team, that's obvious. That's Joey Porter.
Joey Porter.
That's obvious. Joey. We would always just tell him, look, man, I don't mind you talking to the other team offense, but don't piss anybody off on their defense. You ain't got to deal with them. We do. So don't get them started. Now, one of the guys I played against who had the biggest mouth, and I absolutely could not stand him until I actually met him in person, was Sean Smith. He played D tackle for Cleveland and Cincinnati. Big Sean Smith. And I met him at an NFL PA party and talked to him. And I was like, you know what, dude? You're not as bad as you were on the field. You're actually a good guy. You are. But boy, every week when I knew I had to play him, I was instantly pissed off. Like, it didn't take much. I was automatically pissed off because he talked from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. So those two right there stood out the most to me.
You know, and I'm gonna be very, very cool and collective with this. Sean Smith was a part of this show a couple of months ago. Believe it or not, he was. And you know, Sean, you know, he's a very aggressive man, and he has his own personality. It didn't work out. We love Sean. It just didn't work out on the show. But he was an aggressive. He's an aggressive guy. He has an aggressive way of attacking and speaking his piece.
Yes.
There's no doubt. I never played football on the field with him, but I've done a show with him. I could tell you that. So I would agree with you that he has his, you know, his interesting person, and he is a good guy. I've always thought Sean is a good guy, personality wise. You know, sometimes I think we clashed heads because we both have very strong personalities, but he was a part of this show. It's crazy that you mentioned him. Out of all the people you could have mentioned it, you mentioned Sean Smith, and he believes he was the bad boy of the NFL at the time that he was in the NFL. So.
Hey, and I'm telling you, it is. I would look up, and as soon as we either had, when I knew which team he was on, Cleveland or Cincinnati, instantly pissed off. I didn't need no motivation. I was ready to go because I knew exactly what that game was going to be like the entire game with him. And I'm not a trash talker. I don't talk, but he brought out the bad side of me every time.
I guess he brought out sometimes the bad side of me.
Well,
but I love him, and hopefully, you know, very, very soon we can get him back on the show. He did do the show for a couple of months with us. He was fantastic in some things. He does like to smoke a little bit of too much reefer, if you know what I'm talking about. But
hey, it is to each his own, man.
To each his own. There's no doubt about that. But again, Sean is a good personality. I think he'd be great in this business. I just think that he needs to take a chill pill.
Turn it down a little bit.
Turn it down a little bit, baby. That's all I'm going to say about Sean Smith. But I love him, and I did build a good relationship with him. And you know, like I said, he's got the personality to do this. He just needs to find the straight and arrow. Yes, there you go. We are talking to former Super Bowl champion guard and current Middle Tennessee State offensive lineman coach, Kendall Simmons. Now, Kendall, Speedy gives me this whole line of stuff to read off over here, and it throws me off every single time. But, it's so funny. We sit here today, and we try to compare and contrast players on who they think they mimic, in the past, and who do they see themselves in the future being like. Is there a particular player right now playing in the NFL that you see your style of game through him?
Ooh, wow. Woo. Man, that's a very good question. That is a very good question. Good question. Uh, uh, I felt like I could see some of myself in Quentin Nelson. I love the way he plays the game, and he's not dirty with it. The thing about it is, he would pancake a defensive lineman or a linebacker and help him up. Be like, "Hey, you good? Oh yeah, I'm good." You know. And I wasn't a trash talking dude. I felt like when I did have those opportunities, it wasn't trying to be dirty or anything like that, but it was all in football. You know. I would probably say, like I said, I could probably see a little bit of myself in him, and to a degree. But other than that, I'd have to really go back and look at it. That's a hard question. You got me thinking now.
Well, then now you can use it for the next podcast or show that you're on. There you
Okay. Okay. I like that. That's a good question, though.
So I want to ask, being you're a college coach now, a lot of changes going on with the NIL and like paying the players in college too. And a lot of it's with the Power 5 schools. I know you're with a smaller school with Middle Tennessee at Conference USA. So what are your thoughts to all these changes that are going on in college football?
The one thing I can say that is, I feel like it's been time for the guys to get their due, and actually all college athletes. It's not just the football players. The one thing that I would say, and it's hard, and you won't ever find a middle ground to be able to do it, is I feel like you need to make sure all the other sports get as much as possible, especially the lady sports, women's sports. They need something as well. I know football, for pretty much, I would say 95% of schools are the money making things for the school. Also, too, I would say with the NIL, the only part I don't like about it is we jumped all the way off in the deep end too fast. There aren't any rules or regulations or anything to set it up. I'm fine with the guys or fine with the athletes being paid. But if you want to call them professionals now, how about we have contracts? How about we have escalators and incentives? Okay, you make all conference, you get X amount. If your grades slip, you lose X amount. All right, instead of you being able to jump from school to school, you're stuck in this NIL for 2 years, and you have to stay there whether you play or not, and you have to hit your incentives. If you don't, then you don't get paid. And so to me, that's what's being a true professional, and you earn your money and you earn your worth. I think then, just like they did with the new rookies, you need a baseline for freshmen coming in. You can't pay this freshman a whole bunch of money that has not done anything for you, and you got a senior on your team who's all conference and he's not really getting anything just because you want this freshman. Having a baseline for all of them until their sophomore year. And then if you make all conference, all American, all this stuff, then you can bounce just like any other situation. There's tiers there. So I just feel like, yes, we're gonna pay them, and we jumped all the way off in the deep end. And it's the people that don't have anything to do with these players. They don't play, they don't coach, they don't have to recruit them, they don't have to do anything. They made the rules, and now we wash our hands of it, and y'all deal with it. So that's the part I don't like about it.
As everybody knows, we are talking to former Super Bowl champion guard and current Middle Tennessee State offensive line coach, Kendall Simmons. Kendall, last question for me, okay? And there's a lot of personalities we've seen in the past, a lot of personalities. And listen, I'm a dancer. I like to dance. I like to have a little bit of fun. Is there a particular player in your locker room that loved to dance, to love to do crazy things in a locker room? Who was he? And could you tell us a story that really stood out from all the rest of the stories that you have that you've dealt with in all the locker rooms that you've been in the NFL? Did we lose him?
Yeah, it looks like we lost him.
Oh, we lost Kendall Simmons. That was a good question. Oh, Kendall is I think we lost him. Tell him to go in and out. By the way, that was Kendall Simmons. Fantastic interview. Really one of the better football interviews we've had. The guy is so there he is. Oh, he was in and out. Oh, he went back in. There you go. So Kendall Simmons, fantastic personality. Really, really enjoyed that interview, by the way. If we there he is. There he is.
I'm sorry, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we could hear you.
Okay, but if I had to go off, my daughter was calling me. That's what ended up messing it up.
Listen, no, it doesn't matter. You've been a fantastic interview. My last question for you is, obviously, there's a lot of personalities in the locker room. Is there a particular player that you played with that can actually move? I'm talking about dance, because that's what I like to do. Dance and get down and busy. And could you tell us a funny story that in any of the locker rooms that you've had in the past that really stands out from all the rest, that every time you think about it, it just makes you laugh?
I don't have a funny story about anybody dancing. Only other person I know that with the most liveliest personality was Clark Higgins. He really had he'd always have everybody cracking up laughing. He really did. I got a crazy story about Troy Polamalu though. Okay, Troy has this kind of quiet demeanor. Troy is a prankster. Okay. All right. So me and Troy lived across the street from each other in Pittsburgh. Lived across the street. And my dog, I had a Great Dane at the time, and she was absolutely losing her mind. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you barking like this? It's 2 a.m. Like, go to sleep. Troy was down at my front door putting old Chinese food at my front door. And I looked out the window and I'm like, who is that? And they were hiding. And I said, okay, I got something for you. I let my dog out and I saw 3 bodies scatter and they cracking up laughing and running. They got away. It was Troy Polamalu, Marvin Phillips, and Sean Newell. I didn't know, and I was pissed off. I was so mad. I didn't know what was going on because they had been to my yard like 2 or 3 times and left something on my front door, and I finally saw who it was. You know, Troy kept that a secret from me for like almost 10 years until I saw him at a reunion. And he heard me telling somebody that story and came up to me. He said, Kendall, do you know that was me? Oh, I said, dude, you are such a dirtiest dude. I said, I've been mad about that for years. I said, dude, you are so dirty. And it's been him the whole time doing that. So Troy like running pranks on people. That's something he likes to do.
Yeah, well, I love those Head and Shoulder commercials. That's for sure.
Yes, he's still doing it.
I did hear that when he was playing, he actually had an insurance policy on his hair, like $4 million insurance policy. Did you hear about that?
Wow,
Yeah.
I did not know that. Hey,
Yes.
Well, I need one on my beard right now. I'll take.
I mean, I've never met him. I never interviewed him, but I'm sure he is a personality that we'd actually have a lot of fun with. So
Yes,
that's
you
why I
would.
told Speedy. I told Speedy, I was like, reach out to some of these guys that we haven't even. Ed Reed, I've seen Ed. Ed is an interesting character too. I watch his Instagram all the time,
Mhm.
and he thinks he's a DJ. It is so funny. I'm a DJ,
Uh-huh.
and he's like playing all this old like Barry White music and stuff like that, and he's dancing in the background. And it's so funny, man. He is. I would love to just hang out with Ed Reed because he is a very unique individual. I can tell you.
He is. He does seem like he'd be somebody cool to sit down and just chill out with and talk to for about a good hour just to see where he at.
Oh my God. I would love to see him coach in the NFL too. I think he'd be a really, really good coach. I think he's a Mike Tomlin type of coach. I think people would follow him just because of who he is in his personality. Ray Lewis is an interesting personality too. I would like to meet him too. I never met Ray Lewis. I met a lot of different people, but I never met Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
I know you played against Ray.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, what type of person is Ray Lewis? What type of player? What type of competitor was Ray Lewis when you played him?
he was probably about 100 times more intense than what you see when he's talking, especially like if you've seen it in his inspirational like videos and stuff. It was amazing how smart he was. We played against each other so much. He's calling out our plays and shifting people into the gaps where the ball is going because he knew the game so well. And it was the same with their defense. We played against them so much. We knew where the blitzes were coming from and everything. So it really came down to the point it was the best man on man. Because it really wasn't nothing that you could run against each team that they hadn't seen 1,000 times already before. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I loved about playing against him. And he was so smart, but he was extremely intense. And that goes back, and I know you asked that question, but it's another guy. Tom Brady was the same way. And I played with him in New England. One of the most fierce competitors I've ever been around in my entire life. And it just was intense. So Ray Lewis is the same.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Brady, like everything going on with the offseason with the roasts and all that stuff, and even with Bill Belichick. Like, what were they both like when you were there, and also play against him a lot with the Steelers too?
It was amazing because you would think that with the relationship those two had, and this is just me as a player, you would think Bill O'Brien, Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick absolutely hated each other. Just the way they went at each other in practice and the way they talked to each other and stuff, they were so competitive. It was just like, how did y'all win so much and stay functional and be cool with each other at the end of the day? That's how I seen anyway.
I didn't like how they kind of, at that dynasty, that whole dynasty documentary that they did. I didn't like how they treated Bill Belichick. I think they kind of went offset, and everybody was blaming everything, all the craziness that was happening because of Bill Belichick. I disagree. I think without Bill Belichick, they're not the champions that they are. They're not the champions what they would have been. So
yeah, I agree. I agree on that. I mean, he had a machine running there now. He definitely did.
No, he did. And you're a machine, my friend. And I'm going to tell you this right now. We've interviewed a lot of ex-NFL players. Personality-wise, you answered all our questions, and you have a great knack for, just being calm and collective, and you giving us great straight answers. I think you're fantastic. Keep up the good work. I could see why you're a coach. I think you'll be very successful in that in that way. And we'd love to get you on again in the very near future.
Please do, man. I enjoyed myself tonight, man. Y'all doing a good job here. If I can help in any time in the future, please let me know.
Well, thank you, Kendall. We really appreciate you. Kendall Simmons, ladies and gentlemen, Super Bowl champion, current, obviously, Middle Tennessee offensive line coach. Fantastic personality, great person. Yes. You could see he is a great person, and he knows his game. He knows football from top to bottom. He told us some great Palomalo stories. Oh, yeah. I like Troy. I think Troy's a very interesting cat. I would love to just hang out with him and shoot the crap with him. I was going to say something else, but I'm not going to say it. But he's an interesting person. And I all these guys are so very close together. And Mike Tomlin held everybody together. He's a player's coach, but like you heard Kendall say, Mike Tomlin was a no bull crap type of coach. He gave you a reason to follow him, and he didn't give you a reason not to follow him. And if you didn't, you're out. And that's the type of coach you want to be coached. And I'm sure that's how Kendall coaches his offensive line guys over there at Middle Tennessee State too. So it's a fantastic, fantastic thing. And to me, I think a lot of these ex-players, they could transition into great coaches. And I think offensive linemen, they're interesting because they see things from defenses you don't see. You know what I mean? You're on the field, and like you said, Ray Lewis, he could see plays, and it's amazing how they respond to certain teams and certain players that they see on the field. And I think offensive linemen are just as smart as the quarterback. You have to be smart when you're on the field with obviously one of the smarter guys on the field. So
yeah, instinctual is very important. That's why everyone, like, you could have all the athletic build you want, but technique is key. And I know Kendall definitely coaches his guys like that as well. And especially in today's game, it's so fast.
It's so fast. It's so different than when he was playing.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Brady said it at his inductee at the Hall of Fame for the New England Patriots. He said that the game is different. He thinks the quarterbacks are more sloppier. They don't see the game, but he said the game is faster. So that could be a reason why the quarterbacks aren't as intense and not, up to par of the game anymore. But again, it's Tom Brady, and Tom Brady believes that he can still play in this league. And I still think he can, honestly. I do. I think there are quarterbacks right now. I would say if Tom Brady came back right now, he'd be in the top 10, top 11 quarterbacks in the league. I still think he's that type of quarterback. I think he sees the game. He's so much smarter than everybody else. Yeah. He doesn't need the arm strength anymore. He doesn't need that type of game where he can succeed. And when the going gets tough, who would you trust in a big game with 2 minutes left and you want to give him the ball? I'd say Tom Brady. So that's just the facts, even over Patrick Mahomes or any of the quarterbacks now. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has proven that he's been very, very good with the 2-minute drill, but Aaron Rodgers has won Super Bowl. That's the facts. And until Aaron Rodgers wins the second one, he's not going to be considered. Now, I do believe that Aaron Rodgers, all-around talent, is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. I don't care what anybody says. It's not because he's a Jet. I've said this a long time. Speedy, you would vouch for me on this one. When everybody asked me,
oh yeah,
who would I take?
One of the first arguments I remember at this network was you and the Beeve about Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
And he had an infatuation with Tom Brady, and everybody knows what I feel about Tom, but I know how great Tom is. You ask me right now, who would I take? Talent-wise, pure talent, I would take Aaron Rodgers. That's just me. Again, you can argue your points. That Tom Brady has won more Super Bowls. It takes a team to win Super Bowls, guys. Right. I've said this many, many times. Tom Brady's a great player, but if you look at Tom Brady's Super Bowl championships and go look at the games, I would say out of the 7 Super Bowls he's won, he was good in 3 out of the 7. Like really good. And then the rest, maybe okay. Okay, so it's not always the quarterback. It's everybody around him. The quarterback makes everybody around him better.
Sure.
But you need a good defense. You need a good special teams. You need a good coach. Yeah, you can't win a Super Bowl without a good coach. Go look at the Super Bowls that have been won. Could you tell me a coach that was bad? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, probably like the most mediocre coach that's won a Super Bowl is probably Gary Kubiak. But you're not gonna say Gary Kubiak's a bad coach. He was a fine coach.
Gary Kubiak was a good coach.
Yeah,
great offensive.
Yeah, nobody that's probably the worst coach that's won.
His father was a good coach. His son's a good coach. He comes from a coaching tree. Gary Kubiak.
Yeah, that's probably if you're looking at Super Bowls in the last 15 years, that's probably the worst coach that's won a Super Bowl, and he's still a good coach.
No question. And then Josh comes out. Hockey is a wild sport. Hockey is why? Because Edmonton's up 3-0. If anybody thinks Edmonton's coming back in this series, you're on drugs. I'm just letting you guys know that. Edmonton is not winning this series. They're down 3-1 against a better team. They're going to win. Edmonton's going to win tonight. There's no question. I expected them to come out strong in this game when it's a lose or go home. But you're not beating Florida in 3 straight games. So you can think whatever you want. It's not going to happen. That's just my opinion. Well, anyways, let's bring Fish in. I mean, obviously, I do want to finish up some of the stuff that we need to get into. It's interesting. And Speedy, I know, did you send everything?
I sent every one of them. You have to refresh it. Yeah, I guess you have to refresh it.
Yeah, I'm going to refresh it.
Refresh your email. Yes, I did send every one of them. Fish, I know while he's trying to pull that up, I know you were also mentioning Doug Peterson, too, as the other one that's on the fringe of winning a Super Bowl type thing. Is he that good of a coach? Yeah, he is a good coach.
He is, but I believe they had a really good. Was that the year Reich was the offensive coordinator in Philly when they won, and then Reich got the job because everyone thought Reich did a lot of that work. And we've seen Reich not be successful as a head coach, but we've also seen Peterson not be that great ever since that season. And with Jacksonville, they're not winning yet. So we'll see if he's actually all that great. But he's certainly. You mentioned all the Super Bowl coaches. I guess he'd probably be at the bottom of that barrel, but still, at least decent.
Roger Goodell had to testify in court yesterday against subscribers of the NFL Sunday Ticket who filed a class action lawsuit against him. The lawsuit claims over 2.4 million subscribers and 48,000 businesses that paid for the NFL Ticket were victims of an antitrust law violation. The NFL reportedly inflated the prices of Sunday afternoon out of the market games of 2011 to 2022. The lawsuit also claims that the league restricted subscribers by only offering Sunday tickets on satellite packages. ESPN also proposed a new package of $70 per year, but giving subscribers a team-by-team option, and the NFL rejected it. The NFL, if they are found guilty, will face at least $7 billion in damages and could be up to $21 billion if it is a larger antitrust case. I'm going to tell you this right now. The NFL is going to get away with this. They're going to get away with this. The NFL gets away with everything. And Roger Goodell, who's such a soft speaker, who's making $50-something million a year, and says that the NFL has always been fair to the players and been fair on bringing money to the league. Really? You've been fair? Well, how about the CTE thing? How about the insurance policies that you're not giving former players? Okay? Former players that have helped the game grow. Now you have all these other players like Nick Bosa. They're making millions and millions of dollars. And there's more money being made now than there ever was. Because now players aren't going to complain about the money, because in 1 year's time, you're going to see these players the top players make between $25 and $30 million. They're never going to have to worry about money again. When there are players like Joe Montana or Steve Young that played in the 90s that were making at most $1 million, $2 million a year. That's not enough. That's why all these guys go to autograph signings, and they're trying to find ways to build through their names and some of the sponsorships that are getting now that they're no longer, and they're advertisers, and now they're spokesmen, and they're analysts. Now they work for CBS and ESPN and all these other things because they can't afford to live in the way the world has inflated so many ways of, trying to survive. And I'm going to tell you this right now. We know the NFL is guilty on this. We know they are. Because why would all these different businesses, why would all these subscribers be complaining about the same thing? You're talking about over 2.4 million people, almost 3 million people complaining about the same thing. You're going to tell me 3 million people are lying? I mean, come on. How many businesses were involved with this? Hundreds of businesses. And the NFL always trying to find ways to bring in more money. Why? Because they're always trying to compete with all the other companies like the NHL and the NBA. All the big companies. And now you talk about the WNBA and how it's growing so fast, astronomically, because of Caitlin Clark, what they could be bringing in the future.
Look at all those big college deals that just came with the
Absolutely.
too.
Absolutely. And Roger Goodell sits there and testifies, and he's always trying to find a way out of this situation. Look what they did to John Gruden. They ruined John Gruden. They ruined him. Now, was John Gruden a racist? Yes. Why was he the only one that was caught being racist in all that conversations? They said there were like 60, 70 different people on there, GMs, coaches that were involved in that conversation. The only one that appeared to not be appeared was John Gruden. John Gruden's going to get nothing out of it. Now, he is going to get a settlement. That's not going to help him get another job. John Gruden will never get a job in college. Now, he was up for a college job, never got it. He's never going to get a job in the NFL again because of what happened. And why? Because John Gruden was protecting the value of an owner who, by the way, practically threw his team under the bus in the Commanders. Okay? That's the facts. And Goodell, he does well for the owners, but doesn't do well for the other people, the players, the people that are putting fannies in the seats. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The fact that this is going on, what is the NFL going to do next year when the ticket for YouTube and all that other stuff, the Sunday ticket that they're going to be selling? How about Prime? What the deal that they have with Prime now on Thursday Night Football? How's that going to work? Because I know if I'm going to buy Prime or I'm paying for Prime right now, I'm going to investigate everything that I'm paying for. Because if I find a way there's a class action situation, I'm going to sue the NFL too. I can't sit here and tell you that the NFL did not know about this because they did.
Yeah.
And Roger Goodell is a swift, smart lawman because why? He's a lawyer. And that's why these owners love him because he's bringing in millions and millions of dollars. The NFL made, I think, what was it, $17 billion last year in assets, not only from, TV deals for every single thing that they're selling, at the games and memorabilia and all the other stuff that they're trying to promote. I think it's a shame. And all this money that they're making, the $17 billion off of TV deals, why aren't they helping the ex-players? Why aren't they doing the things that they should be doing, helping these other players that can't stand up? They can't walk anymore. They can't even think for themselves. They can't even eat by themselves. Their women are feeding them. Tubes coming out of their mouths because they risk their body, risk their lives playing a game. Okay? And Roger Goodell doesn't have any remorse for this. That bothers me. And then he doesn't have any remorse on what they've screwed. Yeah. They're trying to win this deal. They don't want to pay the $7 billion. They don't want to pay the $21 billion. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to negotiate a deal with these businesses. They're going to cut it down from $7 billion to $500 million and divvy it out over there because they don't want to spend it because the owners don't want to lose money. They don't want to do any of that. You know why? Because Roger Goodell's all about saving a buck. Because if he saves a buck for the owners, he's going to make more in his pockets. As we all know, he has a private jet. He's got benefits. Him and his kids have benefits for life, even if he's not the commissioner anymore. And he's making $58 million. Who knows what he's going to get with his new new contract that the ownership is going to give him in the future. It's ridiculous. It makes me sick to my stomach. And by the way, for a guy that's making $58 million at the draft, what the hell are you wearing? What are you wearing? I'd be wearing a $5,000 suit. I'd be wearing some like gaiters or something like that. I'd be wearing some hot crap if I'm making that kind of money.
Yeah, and you also look at from the perspective of them trying to get the fan expansion going with these deals, with these streaming services now, because there's going to be a lot of other streaming services that are going to get involved too. We were talking about Netflix getting involved, Peacock's gotten involved, and are they going to trust the NFL to actually do this and not screw them out of other types of money if they're going to just try to funnel funds in for themselves or trying to save money, not go forward with these ideas? I don't see why a team custom idea is a bad idea. That seems like something.
And by the way, I understand what Keith is saying. He's a racist, all that other stuff. How about all the other guys that were involved in that conversation? Why did they have jobs? Why is only John Gruden getting screwed because of that? You're going to say that he doesn't deserve it? That should have never came out. That should have never came out. That was promised by Roger Goodell that shouldn't have come out. So you're going to tell me, hey, this, that, he's a racist, all that. Yeah, listen, if he's going to get in trouble and he doesn't have a job, why aren't all the other GMs, all the other people that were involved in why do they have jobs? That's the facts right here. He had to throw somebody under the bus. And who did he throw under the bus? John Gruden.
Right. And that kind of case even shows how much favoritism there is with Roger Goodell and how much favoritism there are.
He hated John Gruden. Right. And there were stories coming out that him and John Gruden never liked each other.
Yeah.
They had problems many, many times. When John Gruden was working for ESPN, John Gruden tried to speak to him in the back. He would not speak to John Gruden because John Gruden was a no name, no contest. He, after the Super Bowl, after you win the Super Bowl, you're celebrating in your locker room. This is the story I heard. And John Gruden at the time was not the commissioner when he won the Super Bowl. John Gruden, I think Roger Goodell was working for the NFL.
Yeah.
And he wanted to come into the locker room and celebrate with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And John Gruden told him he's not allowed in the locker room. And ever since then, Roger Goodell has some kind of hatred for John Gruden. That's what I heard from somebody that I know.
No, that's fascinating.
Because he was not the commissioner when Tampa won the Super Bowl. No. He was working for the NFL. He was an executive, and he was on his way taking over for the future. And who was the commissioner?
Pete Rozelle at that time?
I don't remember who the commissioner was.
Tagliabue.
Yes. Yes, and Tagliabue obviously hired Goodell to be his predecessor.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, that this is the way it is, and Goodell held a grudge against him all these years and wanted to screw him. But I don't like this deal.
No.
I what are your thoughts, Fish, before we get on to the next subject?
So they're saying that they like gouged prices on the Sunday ticket, and there was no other way for you to watch it unless you had it.
Yep.
Therefore, it's illegal. You shouldn't be surprised the NFL is doing this. Every single place does this. Disney Plus has raised its prices. Spotify raised its prices on me. Hulu raised its prices on me. Netflix, they all do it. And I keep buying it because I still want to watch that stuff. And that's what he's saying, why they don't have to pay. But there's a little different. Now, until 2015, the NFL was technically nonprofit status, which is ridiculous to say. Yeah. But, you know, they have protections because of that. They got rid of that. They started paying more federal tax after that. But they still have this status where they're the only game in town, the NFL, basically. I guess unless you count the UFL, but they're not really competing with them. They're on at different times. And everyone's buying these games. It's a financial issue. And it's just a way that they're getting away with making money. There'll be some kind of settlement. There's a chance people will get some kind of a kickback on a bill for Sunday ticket, but it's probably not going to be a lot, if anything. And they're just going to keep gouging us anyway.
All right, so let's get into the next subject, baseball, and we'll bring Tommy in just a few moments because we'll get him involved in the conversation. MLB announced earlier today that beginning June 25th, AAA teams will be allowed to challenge balls and strikes. All AAA games will use an automatic ball strike challenge system, a form of AI technology. The challenge will have to come quickly after the pitch is thrown, either by the hitter or the catcher, alerting the umpire. Other independent baseball leagues have experimented with the robotic umpires, but this is the first use artificial intelligence technology in the minor leagues or the major leagues. Rob Manfred says he wants to test the method in the minor leagues, hoping for it to come in the majors in 2026. This is a horrible idea, an absolute horrible idea. You're going to tell me that the players could challenge a ball or a strike? I mean, first of all, it's going to slow the games down. Okay. Everybody keeps saying the MLB is trying to figure out ways to speed the game up. Now, if you have a chance to sit there and say, oh, that's a ball, I want to challenge that. That's a ball. I mean, how many challenges are you going to get? How many challenges? Because if you're allowed to stand in that box and say, you know what, I'm going to challenge 2 or 3 of those calls. We see these umpires, they're sitting with the headphones on the side. It takes them forever to figure out if it's a ball or strike. They don't even know if somebody's safe at second base. It doesn't make sense. And Rob Manfred says, you know what? If it works in the minors, it's going to work in the majors. Oh, so you know what? Why don't we go? What's that league? The banana league.
Bananas.
Let's take some of their rules because I like some of their rules. It makes a lot of sense. Hey, if a fan catches a ball or the foul ball in the audience, it's an out. If it works over there in the minors, it'll work in the majors. Let's do it. It'll keep people with their eyes on the game instead of looking at their phones. That's a better rule than this. I understand AI technology is taking over the world. We all know it. I've been telling you guys it's going to take over sports radio. It's taking over the world. But is AI technology going to help the game or make the game worse? And that's the thing. I know the umpires are all over the place, but a lot of them are going to retire. Maybe if you bring in some of these young guys, maybe they can see better. Maybe, I don't know. But if you're going to call strikes and you're going to be allowed to sit there in a box and challenge them, I like what baseball is doing right now when you can see if it's a strike or a ball. Use that. Use the box. If it's a strike, you don't need umpires behind the plate. You can pretty much see it on film that it's a strike or a ball. How could you challenge it? How could you, as a player, be allowed every single time? Or I don't know. They're going to have to figure out how this is going to work.
They're going to have to restrict it somehow.
Because it doesn't make sense. And then what's the point of having a manager? What's the point of having a manager if you're going to manage your own balls and strikes? It doesn't make sense. Robbie, you're an idiot. You're a complete moron. Why don't you go play with your Manfred?
Yeah, and you also look at like maybe the process of it still being like, all right, you want to get these
I
calls right.
don't think he's a man. That's why.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Like the process with using the AI kind of makes sense, but again, you also have to find a way to restrict it where you're not going to have these players get full control either, and you're not going to have these players delay the game too much and have too much customization. Because I think the process does make sense when you look at all the umpires that have had these really bad scorecards this year, like under 75%. We've seen so many of them compared to previous years, and it's even some of the younger guys too. I think there was one with the Giants and the Cubs game recently that was under 70%. Like there's been some really bad ones, so I get the process of why they're trying to do this, but they have to make sure that these players are not going to have all kinds of customization to do everything, because pitching is very tough to be able to judge as it is with all the like the spins per minute and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that even the AI thing is going to get perfectly all the time. So I don't know if you could have it where like you should have unlimited challenges. No, you should restrict it to maybe 3 different players have a challenge, or like a team has this amount of challenges in order to make it work, because there's no way you're going to do it with every pitch, with how many pitches there are in a baseball game, which is usually over 150.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Fish, your thoughts?
I like that they're trying it out in the minor leagues. They have a couple of different ways they're trying it out. Apparently, they did this on weekend games earlier in the season. The games, they were doing the full automated ball and strike system. And I've got some numbers here from the ESPN article from Jesse Rogers today. 61% of players and team personnel like having this challenge system. The fans are kind of more down the middle. Less than a third want the human umpires anymore, but even fewer people want robot umpires, fully robot. So the idea that they're trying out now is the most preferred choice of the players in AAA, which is this hybrid challenge system, which is apparently supposed to be very quick. The umpire gets in his ear that he was wrong, and it should only take a couple of seconds. But again, it's they're trying something out. I think this is a Theo Epstein idea again, where he was trying to implement these things in the offseason under Manfred's I guess tutelage, for lack of a better bag of a letter term. But this is what they're trying, and at least they're trying it. They're realizing, they're not just going, we're going to go fully automated. They're trying to figure out what people want, which at least we can give them that.
I don't want it. I don't want to see a player actually stand at the plate and say, all right, I'm challenging. That's a ball. That's a ball. Or you could do that whenever you want. You know what? I could stand in the box and say, you know what? That's not a strike. That's a ball. Oh, it's down below my ankles. And then if you look at the box, you say, well, I'm smaller than the box. I'm not Aaron Judge that tall. It's not a strike. It's a ball. And I could sit there the whole time. This game would go on forever. It'd take hours before the game. And you're trying to speed up the game. Tommy, your thoughts?
It's kind of crazy. I don't know how that makes a lot of sense. Like you were saying, too, this is going to slow down the game. And one of the hugest things for years is, of course, that the game is already pretty slow at baseball. Like, baseball really isn't really only fun until the last month of the actual sport. You have teams that are fighting for division spots, playoff spots. You have teams making it interesting. I don't really see like where the interest arose for this idea to I don't know who really asked for this, because I know we were I know you guys were kind of talking a little bit about the new kickoff format in the NFL. I'm not a fan, but there were certain people that saw it in the XFL. They thought that was a pretty good idea, and then it was voted on. Like, certain things were already in talks of this. For this to be a rule in the MLB, I don't really know who even asked for this. I don't know where this actually came from. It kind of feels, in a way, spurred up in like at a weird moment. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
We know it didn't come from Mike Trout. Mike Trout doesn't like anything changed.
That's an X off of them.
He is a complete X. And Mike doesn't believe steroids should be involved. He doesn't believe that robotic umpires should be involved. He thinks that it should stay the same. That's the game. It's been around forever. Why change something that's been there and it's worked forever? And I agree with him in so many different ways than one, but I think that when you look at the game and the transition of the game, Rob Manfred hasn't made the game better. He's made the game worse. And again, pizza boxes as bases don't make sense. I love the shifting, but has it really helped baseball? I mean, you might as well bring shifting back. I mean, you would have thought that it would open up the game and made it more offensively, offensive for some of those pull ball hitters. It's not helping them. I mean, Rizzo was bitching and moaning. Anthony Rizzo for years was bitching and moaning. Stop with the shifting. My numbers would be better. Okay. All right. Well, it's been 2 years, Anthony. Your numbers are down. Your average is down. You're not hitting as many home runs. So tell me right now, would you rather shifting or wouldn't you? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And sitting here today and arguing those points, you can understand what I'm trying to say, why bringing in these different rules or changing the rules of baseball is not going to help the game. It's going to make the game worse. I don't like the way where baseball is going. I really don't. I don't care what anybody says. I'm a Yankee fan. I love that the Yankees are in first place and they're doing great. We don't know what happened to Aaron Judge tonight. Hopefully he didn't break his hand. It doesn't look like he did. I've been, checking it out, but I haven't heard anything. It seems like he was playing through it and that they just decided to take him out. He's a little sore over there, but I don't think he broke his hand. So nothing that I've heard over the last hour from it that he broke his hand. So
Keith says it has helped, and it's because Rizzo has gotten older.
That has nothing to do with it. Are you kidding me?
It was the concussion for Rizzo that he played through. It was
Anthony Rizzo. Hold on, he's getting older.
Last year.
Anthony Rizzo, before this thing happened, Anthony Rizzo was still hitting more home runs. His batting average was up. He was hitting over 250. Now, since this thing has transitioned, his I bet you it's down like 30 points. His batting average is down 30 points. He hasn't hit anywhere close to as many home runs. Come on, Keith, stop the age. Do you want me to pick another player that it hasn't worked out for him from when it was and when it is now? Come on. You can't make that excuse because he's older. The fact is, when you look at the game and the transition of game, do you think that it would be better to change the rules that have worked for over 100 years? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. There's only two. Now you're going to say, well, every game has to change. It has to go by the speed of the game. Hockey, I could understand. Hockey, I understand. The two-line passes, I understand why they did. I played hockey. Getting rid of the two-line passes make a lot of sense. It opens up the ice. It opened up the speed of the game. Okay? So I understand that. Basketball, the three-point line. I mean, it's transitioned. It's changed everything. Has it worked out for the better? I'd say the worst. Now you have a bunch of teams jacking up 36 to 43s. Does that make the game better? Or would you? I mean, it takes away the big man. It takes away the strength of what the game was. Okay? Now you don't have to have a big man. You just have to have a big man that can shoot the three. He doesn't even have to be a good rebounder, because if you're jacking up 43s, it don't matter how many times you rebound if you can hit, over 50% of them. So that's the problem. And then there was football. And you look at this, the kickoff rule. Do you think this is going to make the game better? I don't think so. It's going to make the game more offensively sound, which the NFL loves. But for defensive teams, you think that's going to help the defensive teams that are built to win games with their defense? You think they're going to like these kickoff returns? If your special team stinks, you're talking about the other team on your 30 before they even start on downs. How does that work?
It'll change defensive strategy as well.
100%. That doesn't work. That doesn't make the game better. It makes the game worse. And you're going to see blowouts. You're going to see 50-point games. I mean, you're not going to want to
college
see that.
scores.
You're not even going to need a kicker anymore. Why would you want to kick a field goal when you're already starting on a team's 40 and all you got to do is get to the 30 or the 20 and you can force the ball into the end zone? You don't need to kick it anymore, because automatically you already know that you're going to start on the other team's 40 or 50 or 40, where you're automatically in position to score. Why do you need it? You want to score touchdowns. You want to get the 7 or the 8. And by the way, why kick a field goal now? I mean, kick a point conversion when you can go for the 2 points.
Dan Campbell will have that movement forever.
I don't like it. I don't like any of these changes. I think the game is fine where it is. It's been fine where it has. And I don't like this. I don't like this AI move. I don't like the forcing the pitchers to throw at the speed of the clock. Yeah. I don't like that either. It's not fair. If a pitcher is, doing this for years, for 10 years on, how they maneuver the ball in their hands, how they grab their grip, and you have to now have to push forward and try to find a way to throw the ball quicker. It hurts the tempo of the way you pitch. You've heard Chris Sale say it. You've heard other pitchers say it. Max Scherzer said it. I don't like it. I know. The Yankees announced that Gerrit Cole will make his season debut tomorrow versus the Orioles. Cole has been out since spring training with an elbow inflammation. Cole pitched 3 rehab games and has 10 strikeouts in 4 innings in the last one on Friday. Aaron Boone says he won't push Cole to full workload yet, limiting him to 80 to 85 pitches for his first couple of starts. The Yankees starting rotation has a 2.9 team ERA without Cole, the best in baseball. Cole had a 2.63 ERA, a 0.98 whip, and 222 strikeouts in his Cy Young season last season with the Yankees. Gerrit Cole is going to change everything for the Yankees. I mean, even better than they're in position. Why? Now losing Clark Schmidt, you don't have to rush him right away. Carlos Rodon, you need to skip a start. You can skip him. Marcus Stroman, you can skip a start. You can skip him. You have now a position where you don't even have to go for a starting pitcher. You're getting one of the best pitchers in baseball back in the second half of the season practically. So now your rotation is even better than it is. You have Luis Gil right now, arguably is the Cy Young winner in the American League right now. And you're set up really, really well. And now you sit here, you sit pretty. What do you do at the trade deadline? Now, you've heard that the Yankees are going to be very aggressive. Aggressive for what? You don't need starting pitching, and I don't think you need to bring in any more starting pitching. Don't throw any prospects away. You have a ton of good prospects. You're almost, I think you're a top 10 when it comes to the prospect pool right now. Dominguez just came back. I mean, you're in a very good position for a very, very long time. And now I think all the Yankees need to really do is go after relief pitching, maybe go after another closer just in case their closer has his woes in the second half of the season, which he's had over the last couple of years. That's all I think the Yankees need to go for. You want to add another bat just in case to save you,
An infielder, maybe.
Yeah, maybe you had a left-handed bat in the infield. That's where I think the Yankees need to go. But you don't have to give away top prospects. I think the Yankees are very much the favorites of coming out of the American League. I mean, if this doesn't show you against the Orioles, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the better team. They're by far, they have the most depth. And with Juan Soto, and as long as Aaron Judge is 100% healthy, I mean, this lineup is as good as any lineup in baseball.
Yeah, and you also look at the factor of Gerrit Cole being able to eat up a lot of innings. And I'm not saying you have to have him pitch on short rest all the time, but it's the thing I think it'll allow the most is for the younger pitchers to have to do innings limits if they want to. We were talking about with Steve Gardner last week, the potential for Luis Gil to have to go for an innings limit, and will his successful season keep up because of that? The Yankees now have leeway to be able to manage that kind of thing. Same kind of thing with Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt's a younger pitcher that's had injury issues. They can manage that because come time for the playoffs, one of the biggest things what we've seen in strategy from a strategy perspective in recent years is starting pitchers out of the bullpen.
And then Keith is saying, who said that they're going to be aggressive? Keith, I don't know where you're watching or what you're watching. MLB Network, everybody is saying Brian Cashman came out and said that he is going to be very aggressive at the trade deadline. Because if he thinks that the Yankees have a chance to win a World Series, he's going to do everything he can to make that happen. So that calls for aggressiveness. You're not going to sit there and say, "Oh, I'm going to stay where I am because we're still the best team in baseball." Teams do make moves and do change everything in the second half of the season. The Braves have done it. We saw them. That's how they won this. They won their World Series a couple of years ago. It happens. And show me that quote. Okay. I'll show you the quote. Keith, if I show you the quote, what are you going to do? What are you going to do then? You're going to shut up and you're not going to attack me anymore on what I'm saying? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. It was said. It was said.
And it's also in the patterns of the Yankees in recent years. Even if they don't get the trades, they're still driving up the prices for these other teams too. And that's what makes it interesting too with Gerrit Cole coming back, because the Orioles have had a lot of pitchers that have gone down with injuries recently and scattered throughout the season. And they're going to probably be in the market for starting pitching now because of that. So, like, maybe they leverage the price to maybe make it harder for them to trade for something. And that's why I still think they could stay aggressive. But you don't need to do that. I would prioritize definitely, like you said, a left-handed bat. It's something in the infield, especially now with Rizzo hurt. Rizzo's going to miss probably a month or two, and he wasn't playing great anyway. Maybe he plays back better after the injury. We'll see. But the Yankees can't base their trade deadline strategy on that. And because they have so much versatility with these younger pitchers now, they can do that. And Gerrit Cole coming back gives them leeway to be flexible and not force them as much. And postseason strategy-wise, them getting bullpen experience, like, not pitching directly as a starter, could help them if they have to come in the fourth inning of a playoff game too with a lot of these young pitchers, because that's the strategy now in today's game.
How about you, my friend?
Look, Cashman said that he's going to put the gold chips out there. This is his words, gold chips for a trade deadline this year. Now, who could he possibly be looking at? Rizzo was hurt and he wasn't performing, but I think the number one culprit for the Yankees is Gleyber Torres, who does not seem to be long for this team. You've got guys in the minors that, they're not super high on, but they don't think that they'd be much worse than Torres, maybe better defensively. That's the position that you trade for.
Empire Sports Media, Empire Sports, Ryan Garcia, who writes for the Yankees, been writing for the Yankees for 10 years. Yankees are expected to be very aggressive at the trade deadline. So here you go. Here you go, boy. Here, you want to see it? You don't believe me? I'll show you right here. Right here. If you're seeing it right here, I'll send you the article so you can read it. All right? Because you don't believe me. So who said that? Andy Garcia. I'm sorry, not Ryan. Andy Garcia. I'm sorry, Ryan Garcia. Andy Garcia is actually a good actor.
Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia.
But that's the guy, right? If they're not going to upgrade outfield, they have Dominguez as the fourth guy, and they're keeping him in AAA because there's no place for him. So it's not outfield. The pitching staff doesn't need anything. The bullpen's been unbelievable. Maybe you add to his strength. There are teams that believe in doing that and getting another big arm for the bullpen. I think that's something Cashman would do. He's shown to do it in the past. But I think it's Gleyber Torres at second base, or maybe you move LeMahieu over the second because you can't get off of that contract and you get a third baseman. But it's one of those two positions. It's the only place you really need to upgrade. Catcher's fine. Trevino's a good defensive catcher.
Trevino
got a little bit of pop, and Wells.
I think the Yankees. I think they don't need the Yankees. Don't need offense from the catching position. Whatever they're getting from Trevino and whatever they're getting from the other guys, they're going to be fine. I don't think offensively, when you have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, as long as Aaron Judge is healthy, when you have these two guys in the middle of your lineup, it's going to protect your lineup. So I don't think it's going to. And I do believe I agree with you, Fish. I think Gleyber Torres makes a lot of sense for the Yankees to move at the trade deadline. They're not going to re-sign him. So the Yankees need to get whatever they can from him. And they can add a guy, a young bat or a young pitching prospect, or maybe even a relief pitcher that they can use on this run for the playoffs. And Gleyber Torres hasn't had a really good season. If you look at his numbers, they're down. And he's expecting big bucks. He wants $200 million or over $200 million in the offseason with the power that he gives to you at second base position. So I think it makes a lot of sense that you could see Gleyber Torres being the odd man out. Also, Anthony Rizzo. I don't think Anthony Rizzo's is the guy. I mean, obviously he's old. They need to find somebody that's going to replace him. There's a couple of first basemen that might be available at the trade deadline. I think the Yankees should look to fill in that position and put another left-handed bat at that position, a power bat at that position. So the Yankees need to figure out who fits and what fits moving forward. Because the Yankees are maybe a piece away from really looking like the favorites to win the whole thing. I think there's an argument. It's really down to 4 teams. And those 4 teams, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's the Orioles, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Phillies. Those are the 4 teams that everybody keeps talking about. And I think it's going to be going throughout the season. I think the Orioles are going to be better in the second half. They're a better second half team. I expect them to be better. Burns is not going to re-sign with the Orioles. I don't care what anybody says with new ownership. They're not paying him $300 million. They're not. I'll tell you this, the Mets will pay him $300 million. And I expect Burns to go elsewhere. I think he's probably going to go to the National League or back to the National League. It makes a lot of sense. So, and then everybody thinks that all the Met fans think that Soto's going to be the guy. I don't think Soto's going anywhere. I really don't. I think the Yankees will find a way to give him an extension. where it makes sense for him and makes sense for the Yankees. They'll bottom load it like they did with what the Marlins did with Giancarlo Stanton. Instead of top loading it, they'll bottom load it. They'll give him a 12, 13 year contract where he's a Yankee for life. And his last like 4 or 5 years where he's going to make the most money. That's where I think it will make a lot of sense for the Yankees to close the deal with Juan Soto. I think that's where he's going. I can't see him going anywhere else, especially when you watch this lineup and what this lineup is doing is they're tearing teams apart when they're in the lineup. Yeah. So I can't see them deciding, hey, you know what? We're just going to let Juan Soto go. I think we can fill in that spot. And Alex Verdugo, he's going to make himself a lot of money in the offseason. A lot. Now, if he wants to stay a Yankee, which he says he loves it there, and he loves playing for the Yankees, maybe the Yankees get a team discount for Alex Verdugo because he fits in this lineup. He's a left-handed bat. I think he loves it here in Yankee Stadium. So it would make sense why Alex Verdugo would want to stay. But again, you have a young guy like Jones that you're going to have to call up in the next year or two. I can't see the Yankees keeping Verdugo unless he wants to sign a 1 or 2 year deal, right? Because Jones is going to be up in a very near future. And you have Jason Dominguez, unless you're going to trade Jason Dominguez for a star pitcher. I wouldn't do that. I think Jason Dominguez right now is a future for that organization as their center fielder. So, and he's a switch hitter. Where do you find a center fielder, a switch hitter that could throw like him and catch like him and do all the things that he could do on the field? You can't just get rid of her or decide, hey, you know what? We're going to walk away from this and we're going to trade this guy. The Yankees aren't a team that or an organization that does stupid things like that. So the Mets are, the Yankees are.
Yeah, they are.
I'm just speaking the truth.
No, I know.
I'm not trying to attack the Mets. I want the Mets to do well. I would love to see the Mets and the Yankees play in the World Series. I know Josh would tell you I hate the Mets, but I have nothing bad to say about the Mets organization because they're always going to trail. They're always going to chase the Yankees. That's just the way it is. It's just like the Jets are always going to chase the Giants. They're never, unless the Jets win 4 Super Bowls, they're never going to be considered the Giants. It's just the way it is. So maybe Aaron Rodgers, if he has something up his sleeve and he wins 2 in the next 4 years, maybe we start talking about the Jets and the Giants being, calculated as even teal, but I don't think that's going to happen. So, Scoops, what are your thoughts to this whole story?
So if we're talking about the Juan Soto thing, I don't, like you said, I don't see the Yankees letting him go after this year. From what we've saw so far, like you said, they're only 1 or 2 pieces away, and the Yankees are, of course, one of the 4 teams that are favored to win it all. Juan Soto knows this. He knows what he's got over here in the Yankees. He has mentioned that he wants to stay. He said his agents reached out. They've expressed that they want to stay and everything. And if the Yankees don't if the Yankees don't actually plan on signing him, that means that they want to win this year, which is very much likely to, but that means that they have to be poised to win it all this year. And
Brian Cashman already said that they're going to go all in. They haven't won a championship since 2009. Cashman, it's 2024. Cashman's not going to go into another year where they still haven't been in a World Series. Just think about it this way. The last time the Yankees were in a World Series was when? 2009. 2009. That was the last time they won a World Series. I mean, just think about it. A team this good with such a good, a bunch of good prospects over the years, great GM, great this, great that. They haven't won or played in a World Series in almost 15 years.
Yeah, they've lost 5 ALCSs.
In 5 years, that'll be like 20 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the longest drought the Yankees have ever had. I think the Yankees are going to be all in. They're not all in to trade Jones or any of their top prospects. I cannot see them trading Jones. When everybody's comparing his skill, they're saying that he's a left-handed Aaron Judge. That's what they're saying. With the power that he has and the defensive skill that he has, and they say he's even faster than Aaron Judge on the bases. So just think about you have a left-handed bat just like Aaron Judge. That is your future left fielder. I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. The bag of riches the Yankees have. And I know there are a lot of people love this Oriole team, but are the Orioles going to be able to keep all their players? They're not an organization over the years that can. They do have new ownership. They do like to say that, but They're not the Yankees.
They should start the Braves model now, actually. Like
They should, but they're not. They're not.
Pay them young. No, they might not. But
and why would these players want to do that? I mean, the Braves are an organization that likes to do that, but I can't see any of these young Oriole guys wanting to say, hey, you know what? I can make $500, $600, $700 million in the future. The way the money is some of these guys are making, the deferred money that these guys are getting. Why would you do that? It just doesn't make sense. I think. All in all, I don't think you're going to see another team be able to do that like the Braves.
Nobody's done it as brilliantly as the Braves. Other teams have tried, like the Blue Jays have tried, the White Sox have tried. I think for the process, though, like the way arbitration works and the way these minor league contracts have been really bad for these players, sometimes maybe getting that money early could still be a similar amount of combined earnings, and maybe that's where that makes sense for the players to get some money right away. But yeah, you're going to have cases like the Braves are with these like guys getting underpaid too, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm reading what Keith says. I'm a huge baseball, I have a very huge baseball family. You have no idea, which I do have an idea of your family, and I know the game. Trust me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, guess what? Brian Cashman has had broken teams. This organization has been broken for 15 years. You're going to tell me when you have a chance to go all the way and win, this is the first year when you're outshining the Astros, outshining the Orioles and all the teams in your division. There's no Rays that you have to worry about. There's no Toronto that you have to worry about or any of those teams now. You're expected to go to the World Series. You're going to tell me when you have that kind of chance that you're not going to put all your eggs in one basket? Keith, you're a Yankee fan. I'm a Yankee fan, and I know Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman is not going to sit still going into the trade deadline and saying, you know what? It's the break, don't fix it. Brian Cashman has been picked on by the fans. He's been picked on by the press. He's been picked on by everybody. Get rid of him. He's washed up. Brian Cashman wants to prove a point that he's not washed up. Brian Cashman wants to prove that he can win championships in all different decades, and he's going to do it. And I think he'll do whatever it takes to win a championship this year, and I think he's going to.
And Keith, also think about this too. The top 5 teams in the American League, they're all like young, ahead of the curve type teams that have leeway to make aggressive trades if they want to as well.
And he's saying they have a first baseman. They have a youngster that they think could be their future first baseman. Keith, we've heard that by how many? Remember Bird? Remember how great of a hitter he was?
Greg Bird.
Remember Greg Bird? How fast was he in and out? He had one good season. How fast was he in and out? What did the Yankees have to do? They had to go after Mark Teixeira. Come on, Keith. I know the Yankees too, Keith. I follow the Yankees for years. I've been a Yankee fan since the day I was born. I grew up a Don Mattingly fan. I know Donnie baseball. I followed the Yankees when they sucked. And by the way, they had the most wins in the 80s than any other team, but only won one World Series in 80, I think it was, or 81.
No, they never won a World Series. They lost it to the Dodgers.
But whatever I'm saying. But the fact is, the Yankees had most wins in baseball in the 80s and never won. Okay? And everybody, but there was no wild card. And then when the 90s came around, and Don Mattingly had a hex. He did. He had a hex on him. Don Mattingly as a player, and as a coach, he never won. He never won. Whenever he was a part of the Yankees organization, even as an assistant coach under Joe Torre, they never won. They just could never get over the hump. And Derek Jeter came, and then Mariano Rivera came, and obviously Bernie Williams was there, and everything like that. And I remember, listen, I grew up a Danny Tarnable fan too. Remember Danny Tarnable? I mean, he was the best power hitter on the Yankees in the 80s. Randy Villari, we speak about it. Pat Kelly. All those players, Mike Stanton, everybody gives is he related to Giancarlo? No, he's not. He was a catcher.
No, Mike just went by that because no one of his high school teams.
Roberto Kelly, who was traded for Paul O'Neill. I remember the Yankees. I'm a Yankee fan.
Giancarlo Stanton only went as Mike briefly because none of his high school teammates can pronounce Giancarlo.
I know the Yankees. I know the organization. For all the Yankee fans that think that they know the organization and where the Yankees are going, and Brian Cashman's an idiot, he's a fool. Yeah. Yes, your father played pro baseball. My grandfather was scouted by the Yankees and the New York Giants. Okay, so what? My uncle was drafted by the Kansas City Royals in the second round as a third baseman. Who cares? What does it matter? What does that mean?
I'll tell you who's the first baseman.
Hold on. I'm sorry. It doesn't mean you don't know baseball. That doesn't mean you know more baseball than I do or anybody else does. I'm just saying, Keith, I'm not attacking you and what you know about the baseball or baseball game. I'm just saying you can't tell me if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, that's not the Yankees motto. It's never been the Yankees motto. Go look at the championship teams that they had in the 90s. Every single year was a different team. Every single year. 96, 95, 90, 95 when they lost. And Don Matt, that was the last year, Don, when they won 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. It wasn't the same team. It wasn't the same pitching staff. It was a different team. They always maneuvered. Anyways,
I'll tell you right now who the first baseman's going to be, Errol, next
Keith, you know your stuff too, okay? If I'm not attacking you. Go ahead.
year.
What were you saying?
They're going to re-sign Juan Soto and move him to first base.
That's not good.
That's what they're going to do, just like they did with Harper in Philly.
That's not
because
gonna
who else are you going to put there? You have all these outfielders in the pipeline. He's an average outfielder that tries hard. He doesn't need to play outfield if you have these studs coming up. You got Jason Dominguez, you were saying, a switch hitting center fielder. My favorite player we haven't talked about, I think, ever on the show is Bernie Williams, who was a switch hitting center fielder for the Yankees, hit 330 almost every year.
Yep.
Williams is a great arm in the outfield. But this is the type of guys that we have coming up. Move Soto to first base, just like they did with Harper. It's gone really well in Philly with Harper over there. And then you still have Judge to play one of the corner outfields. You got Dominguez in center, and then the kid Jones will play left when Stanton will be the DH.
I think what's gonna happen is Giancarlo Stanton after this year will have 3 years left on his contract. The Yankees will figure out what they're going to do with Giancarlo. They'll probably tell Giancarlo, "We'll trade you wherever you want to go in LA. You want to go to the Dodgers? We'll buy. I think the Yankees might even just buy out his contract just to get rid of him. You know, eventually, I think not not next year, but the year after, when there's 2 years left on his contract, I think they're going to buy Giancarlo out and let him go wherever he wants. I think Jones, it's going to take Jones at least 2 years to develop. They still think that it could be next year and the year after. He'll be back. He'll be on that roster probably in the middle of the year after next year. And Jones is still very young. I think he's like 19, you know, so the Yankees, they didn't call up Volpe until he was 21 years old. And Gleyber Torres didn't get called up until he was 21. I expect Jones to stay down there for at least another year and a half. So I don't think that's going to happen. And Juan Soto, he's not going to stay with the Yankees if you have to move him to first base. He will not do that. He's never played first base in his career. He doesn't want to look like a fool over there. I think Juan Soto will stay out there. I think that's the plan. I think eventually the Yankees are going to have to decide on, and remember, it's health. Aaron Judge eventually is going to be automatic DH. That's what he's going to be. I mean, 3 years from now, Aaron Judge he's a big man. He's 6'8". He's 280 pounds of muscle. As he gets older, his body, his muscle, everything's going to start to disintegrate. I do believe if anybody moves to first base, it's Aaron Judge. Okay. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think Aaron will be a designated hitter. And I think that Dominguez will be the future center fielder. Soto will be the left fielder. And I believe Jones will be the right fielder. I think that will be the Yankees' future outfield for the next 10 years. And I think that's what's going to happen. And eventually Juan Soto will be the guy. That's what I think. So.
Yeah, Keith says Soto's not going to first base this young. No, I don't think so either. The only reason the Phillies had to do with Bryce Harper is he was getting hurt a lot.
And Bryce, and the thing about Bryce is Bryce wanted to move to first base because he knew that playing in the outfield is only going to commit himself into getting hurt even more. Yeah. He knew that it was going to keep him healthy. Soto is not going to do that because Soto is an athletic guy, and Soto thinks he's invincible. I mean, anybody that watches that guy play, he thinks he's invincible. I mean, and I think Aaron Judge is like Superman. And I think if there's anybody that's going to move to first base, it would be Aaron Judge. That would be the only. It's not going to be Jones because they tried him at first. It didn't work. Jones is an outfielder, and they've said that many, many times. And they say he's a left-handed Aaron Judge. That's what they think he is. And trust me, if the Yankees need something, the first name that's going to be coming up on the list is going to be Jones. Everybody seen that kid play in spring training. They see how he hits the ball. They see how he sees the ball. He's special. And I think the Yankees saw that in Aaron Judge. And this guy is not a small guy, too. I think Jones is like 6'4", 6'6". I mean, he's a big man, too. So it's interesting. He's not as big, muscular as Aaron Judge, but he's a big kid. And I think the Yankees expect him to be part of their future in a very near future. So it's interesting. I mean, the Yankees have a very good future. I don't know why anybody thought that the Yankees didn't. And we'll see what this Rice kid is going to be. I think he had one hit tonight, right? Had one hit. Looks like he did. Let's go Panthers. What's going on with that? What's the score? Does anybody have the score? Yeah.
It's 4-3 right now. Edmonton's up.
All right. So what period? Third period?
Halfway through the third period. It's 9:57 to go.
Yeah. It was up 3. They were up 3-0. I mean, it's interesting. 4-3. Interesting. But yeah, it's Gerrit Cole is going to play a big part on the Yankees' success in the second half. We'll see what Gerrit Cole comes back. He looked pretty good in that spring training. 10 strikeouts in 4 innings. I mean, it's spring training. I mean, it's AAA. It's not the major leagues, but we are talking about the reigning Cy Young winner, a guy that throws a lot of strikes and strikes a lot of people out. This is all good news for the Yankees. I mean, just think about this. The Yankees have the best pitching staff in baseball, and they have the best American League pitcher from last year coming back. I mean, why waste your time going after another starter? There's no need for it. You don't need to spend top prospects. Go after a relief pitcher. If there's a pitcher out there that you like and you think that you can land from one of these teams that are just terrible, bring in another relief pitcher that you know that you can trust and believe that if any one of these guys get hurt or any of these guys start to fall apart, which we've seen with the Yankees in their bullpen, you have this guy to fill in that role. So that's why I think the Yankees go. I understand what Keith is saying. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But with Brian Cashman, if he doesn't win this year, they're never going to win with him as the GM. This is the best year. I mean, the Dodgers, there's losing Mookie Betts for 8 weeks. When Mookie comes back, is he going to be at 100%? I mean, he's going to have to get his tempo back. He's going to have to get his timing back. It takes months. I don't think Mookie Betts is going to be the same player this year. I think they're in a lot of trouble, the Dodgers. I do. I think the Dodgers they have a great roster, but they're in trouble. So
in addition to their always bullpen woes too.
In Philadelphia, you don't trust some of the players. They can't stay healthy. So Bryce Harper, a guy that doesn't stay healthy. Trey Young doesn't stay healthy. I mean, they don't stay healthy. So there's a lot.
Keith says, I think another closer would be great.
That's what I think the Yankees.
Yeah, versatile relief pitchers, I think, is what the Yankees should be targeting. It doesn't necessarily be a closer, Keith, but like a good versatile relief pitcher, I think, would be perfect for the Yankees to be able to transition guys in other roles.
But the Yankees have all this starting rotation pitchers that they can move into the bullpen,
right?
And to fill in those gaps,
right,
that they need. But the Dodgers always have a great roster, as you know. Yes, they do. But guess what? They lost Mookie Betts. Ohtani is not the same player he was last year because he's coming off an injury. He's just not. Go look at his numbers. He's not. And Friedman's getting up there in age. He's not hitting for power anymore. How many home runs does Friedman have? 8? I mean, he's not. He'd be lucky if he hits 30 home runs this year. I mean, this roster is age. They're getting old, and they do have a very good farm system. They do, but they traded a lot to get some of the players that they've had over the years. So I don't know. I don't trust the Dodgers. I think the Braves are going to be a lot better than people think, even with the injuries that they have. I think they have a tremendous amount of talent in that farm system. And I think there are other teams that you can look at. I think the Cubs will figure out things in the second half of the season. I think they're very well managed, as we all know. Craig Counsell. So
their bullpen this year is horrible, but Carl says Ohtani is coming off Tommy John surgery, and Earl says he's not having the same year. But he's not pitching, and that still matters for the playoffs.
He's not having the same year. No, he's not. he's not pitching. Carl, I mean, how many times do I have to tell you? He's not pitching. If you look at his numbers, he's hitting the ball.
Right, he's hitting well, but again,
he's not.
You're
not having the year that he had last year.
For what the Dodgers need in the playoffs. Their issues are usually with last year it was their starting pitching because they had so many injuries all at once, and years past it's been their bullpen. Like Ohtani pitching would definitely help a lot of those other things out, and that's where I think where the Dodgers still have, of those 4 teams we listed, they have the most significant flaw.
Now, okay, so Ohtani right now he's batting .314. He has 47 RBIs, 16 stolen bases. He's had more stolen bases so far this early than he has in the last couple of years because he doesn't have to pitch, so he doesn't have to worry about that.
Right.
And he has 19 home runs. Last year at this time, Ohtani had over like 27, 28 home runs. Okay, he was, I mean, out of 283 at bats, he was averaging a home run every 5 at bats.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not having the season that he had last year.
No, we were talking about the home run chase with Aaron Judge. Like he was on pace for it for a while until he got hurt.
Aaron Judge is on pace to break that.
No, I know that. I'm talking about Ohtani last year.
I mean, Aaron Judge, if he's not, he's not out for a significant amount of time, Aaron Judge has 26 home runs already.
Yeah.
I mean, before the All-Star break, he's going to have probably 30 to 35 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just speaking the truth here. He might break his home run record from 2 years ago.
62. So yeah, almost have to double it. Yeah, pretty much have to double it. But yeah, you could definitely do it still.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's so much. By the way, Fish, you look like you have something to say. You have something to say?
Well, wasn't much other than it's just that Judge is having a historic season. He's got, I showed the stat a little early ago. He's got an OPS plus, and that's 100 is the average player for OPS plus, instead of just trying to figure out like the weird numbers they have. He's got 210 right now. That means he's over 1,000% better than everyone else. Soto's sitting at like around 190. Ohtani, we were just talking about this season. He's having a very good year.
Yeah,
it's at like a 179 right now, and he's also not pitching, which is why he's been, he's a top 15 pitcher and the best hitter or top 3 hitter. That's incredible.
I don't think he's a top 15 pitcher.
Top 10 hitter.
I don't think he's a top 15.
That year he was.
Yeah, but he's not a top 15 pitcher. I can name 15 pitchers that I take over him easy right now. Right now. Ohtani's a good pitcher. And the fact that they compare him to Babe Ruth is a joke. It is an absolute joke. It's shameful to even put Ohtani's name in the same conversation as Babe Ruth, arguably the greatest baseball player to ever play this game. It's despicable that when all these analysts try to say, oh, he's the Babe Ruth of this time. I don't want to hear it. He's not Babe Ruth. He never will be. Stop it. He's not. He's not even close to the talent that Babe Ruth was. Sorry, he's not. And I don't want to hear it anymore. It's so stupid. Such a dumb statement. And the fact that people are going to sit there. Could you imagine if Babe Ruth was making $700 million? Could you imagine? Could you imagine how many? He probably had 100 home runs in a season. It's despicable. The bats were heavier. The stadiums were bigger. Are you kidding me? The balls were heavier. It was a different game. Speedy, you know all about balls being heavy.
No, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
You've never grabbed your balls and tried to see?
No.
So they've never been heavy on you?
I don't know.
So you've never grabbed them?
Yeah, but I'm not like.
What does it feel like when you grab your balls?
Usually it's like if it's itchy.
It's itchy, but do you ever grab them? Like you grab them, give them a nice grip.
I guess, but like I'm not gonna like say, oh, this is way heavier.
Have you ever been like,
no.
wow, this is a good grip,
no,
a grip?
No.
You know?
No.
You ever like you try to throw like a seam, like no, nothing? No. How about when
zero interest in putting balls into a knot?
Well, I'm not talking about them putting it in a knot. I mean, seriously. Have you ever tied something to your balls?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not a weirdo.
It makes you a weirdo?
Has to experiment with that? Yeah.
I mean, you can paint something. You can do many different things.
Why would I paint something?
Why not?
On my balls.
Why wouldn't you?
It's evolution.
See, this is evolution.
It's not evolution.
It
It's
is
the opposite
evolution.
of evolution.
Well, how would you know if it wasn't evolution? If it is?
Because no species is naturally born with paint on them.
I mean, look at the lions. Did you ever see their balls? You see them ever hang?
No.
You've never looked at a lion's
No.
balls? So you've never been to the zoo?
I did when I was a kid, and I didn't know what the lion's balls were. That's something I think about. Correct. Right on cue.
How about an elephant's balls? Have you ever seen that? You've never seen them?
No.
They hang, you know?
Okay.
So what would you say if you actually grabbed an elephant's balls?
I would probably be dead.
Why?
Because the elephant would crush me.
Would you ride the elephant all the way to the end?
No, it would ride me, and I'd be dead.
Oh man. Well, let me ask you a question, Speedy, because I'm a little not turned on from the whole elephantitis situation. Have you ever seen something that scared you when it came to, like a melon? Have you ever seen like a
melon?
Like a weird shaped melon?
Yeah, but it didn't scare me.
It didn't scare you?
No.
Why didn't it scare you?
Because it wasn't.
Have you ever seen a weird shape like a cucumber that was shaped like a?
Yeah, but it didn't scare me.
Have you ever spit on a cucumber before you cut it?
I never cut it.
You've never cut a cucumber? I
don't eat them, so
you don't like cucumbers?
No, they're watery.
What's your favorite long vegetable dish?
Long vegetable dish?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like. So, like, you're judging vegetable dish like as a cook thing, or
No, just something long, something that you like.
Yeah, I like corn on the cob.
You like corn on the cob?
Yeah.
What was the biggest corn on the cob you've ever had?
I'm not sure. I remember it was actually a place I went to out east with my cousins had like this spot that had big ones.
Have you ever chewed?
I don't remember how long it was exactly.
You don't remember?
No, I remember it being like significantly big.
How about 22 inches? Have you ever?
I don't think it was that big.
No.
No.
You don't like it 22 inches?
I don't think it was that big.
Could you eat a 22-inch corn on the cob?
I might be able to. I don't know.
I mean, how long would it take you to eat it?
I don't know.
I mean, just think about it. I mean,
I don't know.
Have you eaten a corn on a cob pretty fast?
Not really.
No?
No.
You like butter on the corn on the cob?
Sometimes.
You like butter? How about salt? A little pepper?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get a little taste to it, right?
Yeah, like sometimes I can eat it on its own too. It's just sometimes I like the butter with the vegetables.
You like the butter on the vegetables. You like that taste. You like that sweet taste. Yeah. I mean, the long part of it would give you that understanding how long and tasty it could be. I mean, it could last for a while. I mean, you could enjoy that corn on the cob for hours.
You can.
Yeah. I mean, do you actually like eat it like one line at a time? Do you? No, you just bite into it, right? You just bite into it.
I rotate it, but
You rotate it.
I don't.
How do you rotate it? Could you show me on the screen?
I don't have a corn on the cob.
Pretend that you have a corn on the cob in your hands.
Use this.
Okay, let's see. Rotate.
So it'd be like rotating.
All right, rotate it.
Parts.
All right, parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now pretend you're eating it, right? When you're rotating.
That's what I was doing.
Oh, do that. Right. And now flip it. There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. All right. A little butter, a little sweetness, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, have you ever thought about, eating a melon with a corn on the cob inside of it?
No.
Why?
Because I never had that idea ever.
I mean, would you do it?
I might. I don't think it would be a
Disturbing behavior.
No, I don't think it would be a bad flavor. I just make.
What kind of flavor do you think it would be?
Well, what melon are you talking about? Like you're judging.
Well, your mom's got big melons.
No.
Okay.
Not that. Actual melons.
All right, actually, but they are melons.
No. Actual melons.
But I
plants.
Plants. Okay, plants. All right. Let's think of a melon. What kind of melon, boys? What do you think? What kind of melon do you think you could put the corn on a cob in? A cantaloupe? I mean, is it big enough?
I mean, it's kind of soft, and it's like if you get a stabbing motion with the corn.
Speedy, you think stabbing motion would work?
I don't know if that would be the idea. Do it. I think it probably would be easier. It would be easier, like trying to just maybe stabbing it a little, but making sure that it'll fit like a circular area more.
Circular.
I think that would be better because melons can get very sloppy. Too.
It can. They could definitely be very sloppy. Definitely.
What about a watermelon, Speedy?
That's what I think would make more sense for it to fit.
Because
that's an oval too. So
oval. You need a bigger melon.
Well, yeah, because like corn is wider, so theoretically you should be able to put it in. It's more likely to be able to put it in an oval than a circle. It's wider.
Yeah. I love this kid, man. He is awesome. He's the best. I mean, he should be a chef. We should call him Chef 4ID. Yeah. Speedy is a chef for all the people out there. He speeds, he cooks, he drills, right? You don't drill? You just talked about putting.
I talked about it. That doesn't mean I'd be good at it. There's a difference.
Well, you're good at everything that you do.
No, I'm not.
Drilling things would be perfect for you.
No.
Why not?
I'm not good with tools.
You know? I'm not good with tools. He's awesome. Oh, man. Anyways, it's been a great show.
Maybe Wes can cook something for you, Speedy, and then you try to copy what Wes cooks and be like, what can Speedy cook?
Speedy, look, Keith says, Speedy, you clean up very nice. You do. You do, man. You definitely do. I mean, you definitely.
Yeah, nice haircut.
Yeah, Fish. Like I could never do what Wes does. Like Wes is like culinary guru with the stuff.
Yeah, Speedy's more of a nut guy. You know, he likes the nuts. No, you don't like nuts?
Not really.
What's your favorite nut?
Cashew, but like.
Why is a cashew your favorite nut?
It's not like overly bitter and it's salty.
It's salty. You like salty things?
Yeah.
Yeah. How salty do you like it?
Yeah, it's not to be overly salty.
It just needs to be salty.
Salty enough. Like some types of nuts are bitter. Like,
yeah, they're definitely bitter. I mean, but the salty nuts are definitely some of the best that we've ever had, right?
Chocolate's a good flavor.
Chocolate is a good flavor. How about chocolate nuts? You like chocolate nuts?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah. Dipping nuts?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, dipping nuts. I've it's interesting. You like cashew, you like dipping nuts, you like everything. I mean, and you like cucumbers. I mean, you don't like cucumbers.
Not really.
No, you like. Anyways, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, 4 hours on the show. It was a great show. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to Kendall Simmons. He was fantastic. Thank you to Stephen Vanover or Bendover, right, sweetie? No. You don't like?
No.
You don't like Bendover?
No.
Why? You like Bendover?
No.
What? You don't like Bendover?
That's not his name.
I know it's not his name, but it's cool, right?
No.
Chocolate salty nuts.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
They're pretty good. How many could you eat at once?
I don't know. Depends on how hungry I am.
If you're hungry, you get a lot of nuts in your mouth, right?
Thank you.
What? I'm sorry?
Can you guys tell who I'm trying to impersonate here?
Oh, Men in Black Memory Eraser.
Men in Black Memory Eraser.
Very good. That's it.
Very good. There you go.
Men in Black Memory Eraser.
Here's my thing. Guys, look into this right here. That's it. We gotta do the show again. You guys remember it.
Speedy, you are one interesting fella, man. That's for damn sure.
No, that was all scoops.
Well, obviously.
But
he was the creative force here.
But this was you.
Men in Black Memory Eraser.
So that was you. See? That was
But
all
you did the 2.0 version.
The 2.0?
Yeah.
Is there a 2.0?
Yeah, he did the upgraded version.
Yeah.
With the scoops version.
With the shades.
The 12-inch show, the 12-inch show. Like 12-inch show?
No, I don't know what that is.
Do you like the 12-inch show?
I don't know.
It's a yes or no question.
I have no clue what it is.
Well, now you know. 12-inch show or no 12-inch show?
I'll go with no.
Why? Why wouldn't you?
I'm assuming you're trying to prank me here and manipulate me to say something, and I'm not going to fall for it.
Anyways, that's Speedy Petey, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna do now moving forward after this week. We're going to call what did I decide to call it?
Speedy After Dark.
Speedy After Dark. We're gonna do that the last 15-20 minutes. We're gonna ask Speedy some questions. We're gonna have a lot of fun with Speed, right?
I can tell.
Yeah, you having fun? You enjoying yourself?
I'm trying.
Let's have a look. Oh my God. Thank you for all the fans. Thank you to Jeff for calling the show and pissing me off. Thank you to Keith. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the fans out there following us on YouTube. We actually, and I just want to let everybody know, our Worldwide Sports Radio YouTube channel went up almost 500 subscribers in, I think it was like 3 weeks. It's thank you to all the fans that following us. Even our Sports Loudmouth. We're almost at 600 subscribers. So thank you to all the fans. In 3 months, 600 subscribers on the Loudmouth. So thank you to everybody. Thank you for all the Spotify and all the Apple followers. Everybody listening to us and being entertained by us. We really appreciate all you guys. Thank you. We'll be back on Thursday as always. And just remember, Speedy.
I'm waiting for the punchline. I'm waiting for the punchline.
I was waiting for you to just say, yes, I remember, Errol. Like that.
You're the king of wishful thinking. Yes, you are.
Anyways, that's it. We'll talk to you next. We'll talk to you next week. Talk to you on Thursday. Good night.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.